What's up, everybody, and welcome to the House of Mario, the South Australian Nintendo podcast that is backed by a 120 Power Star rating. I'm your host, Drew Agnew, and the doors to episode 176 are open. This week on the show, we're talking about that nice red and blue Mario Limited Edition Switch that I got my hands on, my custom Game Boy, which I also got my hands on, and there's a little thing that happened the other week, Bryce. It's called a Nintendo Direct. I don't know if you've heard about it. It hasn't really happened in 17 months, but it happened when you decided to have a bit of a sick leave.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, quite a bit of a sick leave. Yeah.
Now we're here, a few days after. We've got our minds sorted out.
Yeah, and our bodies.
And our bodies.
And our bodies, because one was stuffed.
Yeah, our bodies are now ready. They weren't ready before.
No, they weren't. They absolutely weren't.
Yeah, and Bryce, fantastic to have you back, mate. I'm sort of skipping over my words a bit there, aren't I?
Yeah. You're right, mate. You're right. You're all good.
Yeah, just a little bit excited. Bryce is back. Oh,
yeah. It's been a little bit.
Yeah. So you've been out. You've caught the
gastro.
The gastro. Yeah, that's real nice.
Yeah, no, it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun at all.
No, I bet it wasn't.
No. I reckon it's the worst bout that I've ever had, and it certainly didn't do any good for my throat or my chest or anything like that come with the effects of gastro. So, it wasn't great, but that's also why we're a little late this week too, because you were like, I'll sort something out, but then you were like, no, I still want to do the episode, but we'll just wait until you're feeling a bit better, because my chest and my throat during the start of the week were terrible. And I was like, I can't. So, but glad I'm over it.
I am too, because I don't want you coming over here and sharing that stuff.
No, shit, no. I don't wish it upon anyone after having it. It was terrible. Terrible. I only worked one day last week, so my wallet's a bit empty, and I'm like, But, it's kind of like, well, I'd rather not give that to everybody. It's, my own experience with it was bad enough that I'm like, I don't want anybody else to have that, even my worst enemy. No.
Well, you had a bit of time at home. Did you have any time to play any video games of any sort?
Not really.
Trying to segue away from gastro?
No, I had a visitor for most of the week, and the plan was that he was going to come here, and that was actually Peachy, who's been on the podcast.
Yeah.
And he ended up visiting by some off chance. He happened to be down in Adelaide, so he come and stay with us for a week. So the plan was to come and do an episode that never happened because we got busy for the first week. And then we got sick in the middle of the week. Whereas, we were sort of going to go, well, that'll be the time to do it. And it didn't happen. So that's the only thing I really had planned apart from the Nintendo Direct and TAFE, I guess. That's pretty much what I had going.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Haven't played much games, really. Spent a lot of my time just watching TV.
Yeah. Well, I've been spending a bit of my time playing through my new Switch. It's sort of weird because I was so excited to get it, but it was literally just like the same Switch with like a better battery.
It's like, a Switch.
Yeah.
Yes.
But, when you host a Nintendo podcast, you're like, you know what, bugger, I'm going to justify this no matter what.
That's exactly why you did it.
Yeah.
Mind you, it didn't cost you that much.
No, it didn't. But it cost me a little bit more than I thought because I actually forgot something, but it was cheaper than I thought. So I traded in my original Switch towards the Mario Red and Blue Limited Edition Nintendo Switch, and I paid a $50 deposit, and then when I went to go and pick it up after the trade-in, I paid an extra $75. So I actually forgot about the deposit when I said I only paid $75 for it.
Yep.
But on the website, on the EB Games website, it said that it's $200 to swap it over. So I actually got it for $55 cheaper than I thought it was because of the level 4 sort of rewards from EB Games.
Yeah, that's good.
So I was actually really happy with that because if I was to like fix up my Switch and get like a new pair of Joy-Cons, that would have been pretty much that money anyway.
Yeah.
New pair of Joy-Cons is about $120, and I had like a crack on the back of the system, which a lot of people seem to get that one. I think you got that same crack in the same place.
Yeah. That's the only reason I hadn't opted to trade mine in for Monster Hunter one, because I've already gone and repaired mine. So for me to...
I wonder if they'll care though. I don't know if they would.
Oh, probably. It is.
You should look into it if you are kind of keen.
It's custom modification, so it would have to be like point of, whatever. But it just means whatever money that I didn't use getting that special edition Switch, I'll probably just spend on a Pro anyway.
Yeah.
Like, when they eventually turn up.
Yeah. And that was obviously a consideration of mine, but even then, I was like, well, this is still a nice thing as a Nintendo fan and a Nintendo collector to have. So, I'm still going to go and get a Switch Pro whenever that comes out. But I got to be honest, like getting a brand new system, it kind of eased me a bit, sort of wanting to get a Pro. Like a lot of the reason I wanted a Pro was sort of just like the wear and tear on my system at the moment. So I was like, it'd be good to get a brand new Switch, but actually getting a new Switch and having the Joy-Cons like click on and be real sturdy and not having cracks and having a screen without scratches and that, I'm like, you know what? I'm okay for another a few months just because of that.
Yeah, but then the Switch Pro will come out and...
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah.
When it eventually decides to hit. But, I mean, I sort of got the same bit of catharticism that I did with repairing mine too. Is, unfortunately, at the moment, I don't know, the kickstand's gone. I can't find it.
I can't find it. It's gone.
I don't know where it's gone, and I'm really mad about it. But obviously, Arthur's run around with it, and he's dropped it somewhere, and there goes the kickstand. So that sucks, but I'm going to look into replacing that anyway. It's
okay.
No real big deal. Anyway, regardless of that point, it was a sort of cathartic thing to be like, here is my old console. Let's fix up its, little wear and tears. And, the only thing that it's got left now is the broken vent. But again, it's a problem that most people have. And slot in some new Joy-Cons, chuck on a new screen protector, and voila, it looks nice.
Yeah.
So, I definitely understand the feeling. Obviously, it's not the same as buying a new Switch, but it definitely breathed a lot more life into it for me after looking at it and being very depressed that it is going south.
Yeah.
And so
it's kind of like getting a new case for your phone in some ways, because I wish I had the new iPhone or whatever it is. But if you just go and get a nice case, replace it, clean it up, you're like, this feels new.
Yeah,
it's kind of the same what you did and the opposite of what I've done. But like it's like when I first took it out the box and I put on the Joy-Cons, it just like clicked on like super hard, and pressing the button to get them off, I'm like, oh my god, like my other Switch, all I had to do is like just flick it and it would come off. It got to the point where I didn't even have to press in the button for one side.
See, was it your rails that were the problem with that? Because I actually had a pretty opposite problem in that standpoint, in that replacing the Joy-Cons, it felt fine. Probably because I didn't remove them very often at all. But, they still clicked in like they were, like I remembered them when I first got the console and all that stuff. Once I got a new pair.
Nah, mine got really loose.
Yeah, so was the rails. Yeah. Yep, no, fair enough. Yeah. I don't know. I guess my rails were just sturdy.
Yeah. No, but absolutely stunning console. As soon as I got it out the box, I was just like, yes, I'm happy I've done this. I'm happy I've spent the $150 to swap it over. And even if a Pro comes out in 2 months or whatever, I'm still happy.
Yeah. It was a sort of big debating point for that Monster Hunter console for me. I'm like, oh, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. And
gorgeous console.
In the most recent Nintendo Direct, that's coming to the States as well. So, if you're in the States, you can get your hands on it too. Because I know a lot of people were kind of like, oh man, why isn't it coming here? Because you know what Nintendo America's are like with some of these limited editions and stuff, where it's just they don't bring them.
Guys, I'm sorry, boo-hoo. But how much shit do you get that we don't? Like, look at our Breath of the Wild limited edition.
Oh, yes.
Completely missing a Switch case, like out of the package.
Very annoying.
And it was the same price.
Yeah.
That shit happens to us all the time. Like, we pretty much deserve that win if that was exclusive, because we've been ripped out of so much limited edition shit from packages.
Yeah.
When it comes to Switch stuff, that it's pretty freaking unfair.
Yeah, that Breath of the Wild one was heartbreaking, because when I saw it, I'm like, not only do I get a nice statue of the Master Sword and a map of Hyrule, I get a Switch case, and that sort of eliminates the need to spend an extra $30 on a Switch case. But check EB Games at the time of pre-ordering, it's just not in there. I'm like, why? And it's still $170. I'm like, god damn it.
Yeah, what the fuck, guys? Yeah, but I suppose that's where we got unlucky. And it's happened a few times since, so it was kind of like when people were talking about this Monster Hunter console and it not going to the US, and I'm just like, well, now you know how it feels. Because my God, we get skimped a lot over here.
You just want to put your pain onto other people, don't you, Bryce?
That's exactly
you're
right.
a mean man.
Yeah, I'm a bit salty about Shining Fates, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Everybody in America is like frantically opening it, and meanwhile, when we pre-ordered, it was like release date of the 19th. It's like cool of February, like cool, no worries, and then it got pushed back to the 15th. So like nearly a whole month later, we're like, okay, yeah, all right, no worries. And then we got a text message the other day, and it's just like, oh, your other products are coming out on the 15th, be ETBs, so the main portion of our pre-order is not coming until like the 26th. We're like, what the fuck? It's like your wedding's 2 days after that, so we're obviously not going to be card opening around that time. We're going to be preparing for the wedding, so we might go up and get them, but we won't be opening them. And then we'll probably have to hold our collection up until the point where we're both free and we can be like, all right, live stream this, if we can, manage to hold it.
I reckon we will. I reckon we will this time. Like, the hype's gone. The internet's opened them. They've got all the Charizards and stuff, and we'll just trickle in a month or so later.
Yeah, it's just a pain in the butt. It's a pain in the butt because like all these places, especially like America and all that, and Japan, obviously they don't have too much of a problem getting these things. But then when it comes to supply and demand, when they can't meet the supply in America, they stop shipping to Australia or whatever, and then they supply the rest of America before they send to Australia. And all of a sudden, like, I think, I've put a couple $100 down in pre-order. I don't know how much you put. Maybe, I think it was about the same, wasn't it?
I mean, for the deposit, like 150, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. You
whatever
put down
it worked out to be. Yeah.
Put down a fair bit for the pre-order.
Bit too much. Yep.
and we got knocked back a month and a half. It's like, God damn it. And I when I commented about it on Twitter, and Jamie Penning, good old Jamie Penning, our mate, he said, this happened with Champions Path, and I'm like, yeah, I get it, and like I understand, the supply and the demand thing, but if that's the case, then why even just like give us an approximate date rather than just like, because we'd obviously made plans around it, and then we had to shift those plans once. Now we've had to shift them again and to an unspecified date, which is a little bit irritating.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to it going into February. So
yeah, exactly.
But I guess it happens. But these days we are used to like worldwide releases and all that. Like it never used to be like that. And I think this is just a sign of those times where it's like, all right, America gets it, then Australia gets it, then I don't know, New Zealand might even be later than that. Who knows?
Yeah, true. Cutting off the end of the conversation though, I went to Toy Kingdom yesterday.
Oh, and what did you pick up?
After work. I didn't pick up anything because I don't have anything at the moment, but I'm getting Facebook updates of when Pokemon cards are coming into that shop.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had...
Can I sign up for it too? Is that
I could just send you the updates because Helen said, she goes, do you want me... Like, I'll call them again because she's obviously been waiting for them to come in because she's got a few people around town that are collectors.
Yeah.
And she's like, do you want me to message you on Facebook or something after I give him a call? I'm like, yeah, sure. So she's let me know. And she's like, we've got them invoiced next week. We should have Rebel Clash and Vivid Voltage. I'm like, oh, sweet. No worries. All right, I'll pop in next week and get a few. Yeah. So there you go. If you do feel like opening Pokemon cards, we are going to have some in town soon.
I was in Mount Gambier the other day, and there was it seems like they just like get the boxes in waves. So at the moment, it's just full of Alakazam boxes, just like with the big card and the
Vivid Voltage one. Yeah,
the Vivid Voltage booster packs. So I'm like, I was looking at them. There's a fair few of them as well. I'm like, nah, I'll leave it.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'll just save my cards now until I didn't mean to make that dumb pun. I reckon I'll just save them until Shining Fates.
I don't mind. Like every now and then after work, I will go across the Toy Kingdom and I'll just be like, I'm trying to support them, and it's pretty much the only way I'm going to is through Pokemon cards.
Yeah, you got to go and buy a bike.
Well, yeah, and a bike I can't ride. You know,
You can't ride a bike? Didn't learn how to ride a bike?
not a child's bike. No,
Get a man bike.
a man bike. I don't think they have many, and especially probably none that support my weight.
I think they do.
I've been thinking about buying a bike, mind you.
They do adult bikes because that's where my mum always goes to get her bike, Toy Kingdom.
Oh, fair enough. Well, there you go. But yeah, in the short term anyway, and like in the more consistent term, I'll try to go there and, you know, grab my Pokemon cards, and that's where I'll go. So, you know, it's just been a wait because it's like, damn, you're out of stock, and then they're just like, yeah, when are they coming? In the next 3 months. Excellent. I will let the bunch of people know that are asking. See you later. You know, and apparently it's been a very frustrating process to get them back.
Were they getting any Shining Fates? Did you ask that question?
No, they aren't. No.
They aren't?
No.
Can't get them?
No, because they only order in booster boxes. They don't order in any of the
Okay.
You
Gotcha.
know, whatever.
Collections and stuff.
The collections and stuff, they only order in boosters. So the next thing that they'll have will be, after this lot of Rebel Clash and Vivid Voltage, is Battle Styles. Which, funnily enough, I think Battle Styles will be out before we even get our friggin' Shining Fates. So
It will be if there's no delays, yeah.
oh, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
So yeah, the Pokemon card fiasco goes on in the House of Mario.
That it does.
So I guess just going back to the Switch, sort of as the limited edition Mario Switch came out on the same day, Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury also came out, and I was lucky enough to get a review code from Nintendo Australia.
You lucky son of a bitch.
Lucky son of a bitch. Thank you very much, Bryce. I am a lucky son of a bitch, so thank you very much to Nintendo Australia for giving me the opportunity to give that game a whirl. Mm-hmm. And I guess getting the 3D World portion of the game out the way. If you weren't a Wii... What the hell was that?
Your phone.
That's right. As long as it wasn't my drink.
Yeah, we know what you and drinks go on like.
Yes. They spill.
Yes.
That's how they go.
All over the road.
Yeah. So if you weren't... Don't remind me. If you weren't a Wii U owner and you didn't play 3D World, I think it's just a really fun Mario game. Multiplayer, couch co-op. You can now play it online. I think a few people have posted sort of some screenshots and some gameplay videos of like the online not holding up all that well.
No. Yeah.
Personally, I haven't given it a go. I've only been playing the game in handheld mode on the Switch, so by myself. I don't want to play with people. I don't really necessarily care unless like someone comes over. Then that's when that game really shines because you can like pick
couch
up
co-op, you know.
Yeah. I think so. I think the 3D World really shines in couch co-op, and going back through it, I've only sort of like gone between the two modes. So I'm only slowly going through 3D World at the moment, mainly because I've already played it. So I'm going through it just like 100%ing each level as I go along. So I don't have to like backtrack and stuff and forget about it. But I'll be honest, I sort of going through the first three worlds again. I'm like, you know what? I think I kind of, in some ways, underestimated this game a little bit. I never said, it's a bad game or anything, but I think I'm having more fun playing it in handheld mode than I was on the Wii U on the TV. And I always preferred 3D Land to World because playing it on the 3DS, that sort of just progress through the level and collect the 3 coins and go on your way. That just really suited the handheld. Whereas when it came to the Wii U, we were like, coming off the Wii with Mario Galaxy and, just like big, epic sort of orchestrated music. And, 3D World, it's just a completely different beast. So you don't necessarily get that. But playing it on the handheld mode and just being able to like discover all the secrets and all that, I'm just having so much fun with it going through that. So
that's good.
And I think, honestly, I actually forgot about this, but in the Direct, they did mention, the Direct like September last year for the Mario 35th anniversary stuff, they did mention that they increased the running speed for the characters, for the movement. And I think, honestly, that just changes it a fair bit because it's just like, it just speeds up the game. So it makes it a bit more fun in some ways. I don't really know why or how, but the original...
Speed is fun.
Speed is fun.
Speed is fun.
Remember that, kids. Speed is fun.
Oh, God, no, don't remember that. That sounds terrible. But
yeah.
In more ways than one.
So I think for just 3D World alone, fantastic. Pick it up if you didn't own a Wii U or if you feel like replaying it. If you did have a Wii U, I think it's worth the money, but I think where it's just the most interesting feature comes from is Bowser's Fury. And when we sort of saw this in the trailers, it was pretty weird that they sort of did an open world-esque Mario game in the 3D World engine. It's like the most contained Mario game they've ever made, 3D-wise. And this is the sort of the engine they're using to make just a sort of an open area. One of the biggest open areas in any Mario game ever made. But how it sort of works is you start off with an area and you've got to collect the cat shrines to basically tame Fury Bowser and, you know, defeat him in the end. I haven't finished it yet. I'm just taking this game really slow. I'm not in a rush. I know it's like a pretty not easy mode, but it doesn't take that all that much time. I think it's about the 10-hour mark to finish the game, or even 6 hours if you're good. But, you know, I'm just taking it slow. I'm sort of exploring every area. And you start off and you've got like an area you've got to explore. You get all the shrines, and that opens up enough shrines to get the Giga Bell. You get big, you can beat Bowser. When you beat Bowser, it sort of unlocks another part of the world, and you just sort of progress through the world like that. And when you're like opening all these different areas, it just makes you like really hone in on each area of the world. So you're not just like rushing around and just like going past and seeing nothing. Like you're actually like checking out every intricate little level. And there's like different ways you can sort of unlock these shrines. Sometimes they're pretty simple. You got to complete a task. Other ones, you've got to sort of get Bowser when he's in his Fury mode to smash these blocks to reveal a hidden path, so you can get a shrine like that. So you've got to like utilize your time with Bowser to get some of these hidden secrets. And I think the thing that stood out to me the most was just like the amount of toys there are in this world. So like, for example, Koopa shells, you can pick them up and you can run with them. And you can press a button to hop in the Koopa shell, and you can like skim across water and sort of bounce around and hit enemies for a certain amount of time until you get dizzy and like you come out the shell and you're like dizzy and stuff. And you can also ride the dinosaur Plessy as well. And she's just so much fun to ride. So she just like skids across the water, and you can jump onto land and just slide across it. And you can just feel like how slippery that thing is. Like it's just like disgusting how it feels, but it feels really good. Like you can just slide across stuff and knock off enemies, and it's just so much fun. And it reminds me of being a kid in Bob on Battlefield, where you're just like, you know, you're just mucking around with the wing cap, or you're going to knock out the Koopa so he can ride his shell, and you can see how long you can be on the shell without running into a wall and losing the power and stuff. So I think it's just like a really fun sort of play box. They've done a lot to make it a lot of fun, and I'm just having an absolute great time with it. And to our, I guess, conversation a couple of weeks ago, how you're saying, oh, wouldn't this be cool for like a proper full-fledged Mario game? And I can actually really see a Mario game which is like 100% open world. And I know that sounds kind of weird for like Mario and like a platformer, but I think it can work really well how it sort of like unlocks as it goes on. And eventually you've got this sort of massive world where you can just sort of play in. Like even if you don't want to play the game and collect the stars or the shrines or the shines, you can sort of just muck around with it. And I would absolutely love to see something like that where you can just like get your wing cap and just fly and see what you come across, whether you go up in the air and go to a cloud level, or you go underwater and you can find a secret city. I don't know. I could really imagine something like that.
Yeah.
Because Mario Odyssey, there's like lots of different little playgrounds you can go and discover and stuff, and you've got like a lot of versatility how you can throw the cap and become like the different enemies and stuff, and that I think that works really well. But seeing just like even like the Mushroom Kingdom or something, just like explore that and just see how vast it is. Yeah. I think that'd be cool. And it's something I never really thought about because it just sounds kind of silly, like an open world Mario game, but I think it could work really well.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Not particularly.
Not particularly?
I think that personally, I think the game's pretty straightforward. It's definitely not my favorite Mario game, and I have my own gripes with it, just in general.
So this is 3D World on the Wii U?
Yeah.
You're talking about,
yeah. It's definitely not my game, and, you know, I definitely have gripes with it, and, you know, Bowser's Fury looks awesome, and I really want to play it. But unfortunately, being another Wii U port, and I'm a little bit contradictory on this because I've bought most Wii U ports.
Oh, yeah.
You know, yeah. I'm kind of holding off on this one because, you know, I feel like once I've had my time with the game, you know, before, that now it's not really going to change all that much for me, and that once I play through Bowser's Fury, I'm going to lose interest pretty quickly, and that's the first thing I would tackle, because that's the thing I'm most interested in.
Yeah, I'd probably say if you've played the game or you're just not interested in the 3D world portion, I guess like I'm a big Nintendo fan and Mario's one of my favorite games ever. It is for you too, I know.
Yeah.
But I think $80, like, it's a bit of a push for Bowser's Fury, but honestly, I could see it being worth it.
Yeah. And I'm sure it is. I'm just, because the main bulk of the game is Mario 3D World, which is a game that I don't really have in high regards as it is. Like it's all right, but it's, 3D Land is where that concept was explored and kind of died with it for me. I'm kind of like, all right, seen this, don't need to see it again. And then it was sort of just that concept again. I'm like, all right, bored. I got through it in a single day and tossed it. But and I think Bowser's Fury is interesting enough for me to, give it a crack again. But right now, it's such a difficult time in terms of like games coming out where I'm like, and
just you got your side chicks just like, yeah, that one's coming up soon. So
well, look, you've got on your screen right now, you've got Scramble, right? You've got Persona 5 Scramble. You want to play that because they were like, oh yeah, it's not really a sequel, but it is. It's a sequel to the story of Persona 5. So that alone is like, bam, right there. Monster Hunter World wrapped up its content recently, I think entirely. They actually wrapped it up ages ago, but then they brought out the Mila Djokovic stuff for the Monster Hunter World movie, Monster Hunter movie in Monster Hunter World. But apart from that, Monster Hunter World's been gone for a while, which means that, Rise is next up. And playing the demo to that, I'm like, this is awesome, and I really want to play that. And that I know is going to be somewhat of a time-consuming thing. Yeah. If I want to min-max and like all that shit. So, you've got that, and then further on down the line, there is a lot of stuff.
Yeah, April's Pokemon Snap.
Yeah, at
the end, so that'll take up a couple of hours.
That's right. Yeah, Pokemon Snap, and then what was it? June, July.
June is Mario Golf, but we'll get into that bad boy.
Yep, and July is Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
Which, as much as I'm not the biggest fan of it,
yeah,
I'm thinking about picking it up again.
Yeah, when we'll just talk about this Skyward Sword bit here, I guess, because that's where the conversation's going. But when Skyward Sword came up, I just saw the blue sky. I'm like, oh yes, Wind Waker. HD. And then I saw like the birds. I'm like, oh no.
I knew it as soon as I saw the sky. I'm like, oh, that's Skyloft.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh boy.
So I guess a bit of background. Like I quite enjoyed Skyward Sword, but it had a lot of problems, and it's a bit of a pain to sort of get through. And I couldn't see myself doing it again. So when they said, oh, it's coming out, do you want to buy it? I'm like, I don't know if I do. But I probably will. I've got those Joy-Cons pre-ordered. Definitely getting them. They're just gorgeous Zelda Joy-Cons.
Yeah.
So I'll be getting them, of course. I'm a sucker, But I reckon, look, I will pick up Skyward Sword, I reckon. But we'll see how far I get through it.
I get this urge, and it's often an urge where I'm like, maybe I should ask Drew. But I get this urge every few years where I'm just like, I should play through Skyward Sword again. And it's not because I particularly love Skyward Sword or anything like that, because like games like Twilight Princess and stuff like that, I will restart all the time. And I'm like, all right, I want to get through this, all that stuff and play it. But Skyward Sword is one of those games I've finished once. And I've only ever finished it once. And there's a very good reason for it. And rewatching old Game Grumps clips and stuff like that reminds me of why I've only ever finished it once. Yeah. When we're talking about like the note quest where you've got to collect 60 notes in the water forest.
I hate that.
And then the repeating areas 3 times, like recycled areas, the very empty Skyloft and stuff like that. But the thing about Skyward Sword is it's not even so much about all that makes me want to go back and play it. It is because it is a lore heavy game with a very nice art style and an interesting concept to combat.
Absolutely. Yep.
Which is the things that make me like Skyward Sword, but unfortunately its negatives outweigh its positives. So it is kind of like the only reason I want to go back and play it again is so that I can appreciate those things while trying to understand why exactly they made the arbitrary decision to make it such a linear game. Because it is so terribly linear in comparison to its predecessor, aka Twilight Princess. Like, unbelievably. And, like, people complained about the wolf sections, like, even you, like, with the tears and all that stuff.
I didn't complain about them. I just sort of acknowledged that, they're not the greatest.
Right.
Yeah.
But, they don't really bother me that much because, especially in the Kakariko section in Twilight Princess, there was, like, a good portion to, like, push along the story with the bomb storage and stuff like that as well. Like there was things happening in those wolf sections.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I said I don't hate them, but I know what you're going on to, and I agree.
But Skyward Sword, it's like collect these tears like you did as Wolf Link, but for a bit of Triforce. It's like, yep.
And they're so stressful because they're timed.
Yeah, and you get hit by one thing and you die and you have to restart again.
I hate it.
It is stupid. Like, there is so many arbitrary time-wasting decisions, like, in Skyward Sword that are absolutely maddening, but the combat is very unique in comparison to any other Zelda, and the fact that they've made it so that you can be played non-motion control now and with the stick is pretty much exactly how I'd imagined it to be, and that's good. That's a very positive thing. But, just looking at it from that perspective of, like, this game is meant to be set out like every fight is a puzzle, and that's something we've obviously discussed before, and that's great. Is definitely the bulk of the game. But unfortunately, it's like they had all these ideas and then they completely forgot. They're like, oh shit, we haven't fleshed out Hyrule at all. What do we do? Well, I guess just make them revisit each area just to fill it out. And it's like, great, thanks.
Yeah, especially having two of the areas being very similar to one another as well.
Yeah, shit. Like, what was it? You got like the forest, and then you've got the forest underwater, and then you've got the volcano, and then you've got the volcano, but you have no items.
Yeah, you got like the volcano, like the fire sort of area, then you've got the desert, and they're just like, very similar in tone. Like the forest is some of the only greenery you sort of get.
That's right, and they turned it into the water level.
Yeah,
it's like you've got a forest. You get a forest, you get a volcano, and you get a desert. Historically, in every Zelda, it's been forest, volcano, lake. But instead, it's like forest, lake, volcano, desert. And nobody likes deserts in Zelda games.
I think the desert, that had one of the most sort of eye-opening and just amazing sort of sequences leading up to the dungeon in that area, though.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to say anything because there's a lot of new people discovering
the
game for the first time this year, but... there are some moments in that where I was like, wow, this is just top tier Nintendo. And there's other moments just like, can you not put this in the game?
Yeah. Why was this necessary? And unfortunately there is a lot of glaring problems like that with Skyward Sword. But again, it is that thought of like, there is lore here and interesting combat and a unique and gorgeous art style that makes me go, I would really like to play that again. And that's pretty much the only reason. Otherwise, all the repetitiveness and stuff like that, I'm going to be going back through this game. I'm going to be experiencing the same thing again, whether it be, let's not talk about the Imprisoned or, Girahim several times or,
At least Girahim was relatively fun.
Oh yeah, he's a good character.
Yeah.
But just like, as far as repetition goes, Skyward Sword is the king of it.
Yeah, they just sort of copy and paste just
about
prolong the
everything.
game.
Yeah.
I want to highlight the soundtrack too. It was also,
beautiful soundtrack.
Yeah, it was the first orchestra in the whole Zelda series to actually do that, the orchestral sort of soundtrack. And I got the edition with the Wiimote and the soundtrack, and I used to listen to that in the car all the time. It was just awesome.
Yeah.
So some of I reckon the best music in the series. Just fantastic. So if you haven't played it, if you didn't have a Wii back in 2011, definitely give this a go. But just No, but there are moments in this where it's like it can drag on.
Yeah.
But I think it is worth it for the shining parts.
My personal opinion on it is that, yes, play it once, but you're going to realize very quickly that you'll probably never play it again unless you really have that itch and a time to fill.
Unless they re-release it on another console.
Well, that's the only reason I'm probably going back for it.
Yeah, I couldn't see myself going back to Wii.
No,
No
absolutely not.
Yeah.
And I'd like to mention that, and this is a pretty commonly pointed out thing, but Skyward Sword back, 10 years ago was released with a golden Wiimote for, I think it was like
Oh yeah, right.
an extra $20, maybe.
It was like $100. It was $120.
Yeah, $120, and it came with the soundtrack and a Wii Remote Plus, just in case you didn't have one, because you needed one for the game.
Mm-hmm.
Why the fuck is the game $80, and then we have a $110 pair of Joy-Cons sitting there? Guys, couldn't you have just packaged it for a little bit less? Just to reserve the spirit of Skyward Sword. Like, because honestly, you know what Skyward Sword felt like with that Wii Remote? Wii Play. You know why?
Oh Jesus!
Because the game is copy-pasted, but it come with a nice Wii Remote, so why not?
Wow. Just put a Skyward Sword in the Wii Play tier.
Yeah, in the Wii Play tier.
Yeah, it just sold nowhere near as well.
It didn't.
No, nowhere near. But yeah, definitely give it a go on Switch. When it comes to July, I'm going to make my decision there. Obviously, I'm probably going to pick it up. We'll see how far I get through it. Because
I think largely the decision is going to come down to when they're putting out Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild 2.
It won't be July.
No, it won't be, but...
We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. So before we get into the news, I just want to talk about a bit of retro sort of adventure I went on. So I've always wanted to mod a Game Boy Advance.
Yes.
And I was thinking about doing one myself, and I was on like Facebook Marketplace and eBay and stuff, like trying to get a Game Boy so I could rip out the motherboard and get a kit and put one together myself. But it turned out, I kept on messaging people and trying to get information to purchase one, but they never got back to me, or they're always whatever. So I'm like, you know what? It's probably easier if I just get one that's already custom made. And then hopefully they do a really nice job on it, and it'll be like a really nice unit. So I came across an Australian site called Game Boy Custom. And it's a guy from Queensland, and he customizes Game Boys and handheld systems of every sort of brand, depending on what's most popular. And he does like a heap of original Game Boy Advances and Game Boy Advance SPs. So I went through the website and I came across this red one, which I absolutely love. So it's all red shell, red D-pad, all red buttons, sort of red border around the screen itself. It's got an IPS version 2 screen, so it's backlit, which the original Game Boy Advance wasn't.
Yeah.
Personally, I can't even friggin' see the non-backlit version. I remember looking at yours back in the day. I'm like, I honestly can't really see it.
Mate, we deal with it. That's how it works.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. And I would have too. But yeah, and it's also got a rechargeable battery in it, so it recharges through USB-C. And yeah, I'm just, I absolutely love the thing. I absolutely love it.
Oh, yeah.
I got it yesterday, and I put in my original copy of Pokemon Emerald, and I was up to like the 6th badge in Pokemon Emerald, so I played about 3 hours of it last night, just grinding out and adding to my team. And it was just really nice, especially with all this stuff on the House Mario Encore I've been doing, going through all the regions and that. And I had like a big episode where I'm going through the whole region and talking about my memories and all the stuff in there. I'm like, I really feel like playing this game again. So just like a perfect time to sort of pick this bad boy up, and especially since the fiasco last year when the Analog Pocket got sold out in about 2 minutes. Because I was going to get one of them, but it didn't happen. So
yeah,
now I've got the custom Game Boy, and it's really awesome.
A beautiful little Game Boy.
Yeah. And I was actually pretty worried, because when you're just buying, like, it's just like some random site. It's not like, Amazon or something. I usually stick to the bigger stuff just so I know that it's legit. I'm like, I hope this guy's like a legit person or whatever. And it was. It came in. And thank God for that. I paid $250 Australian for it, so they're not cheap things, but it is like literally a one-man job. Someone's just like redoing these and reselling them on, so it's not a mass market product or anything. So
no,
So, you got to pay for it, I guess. But it's just a really nice sort of a bit to add into my collection and give me the ability to play Game Boy Advance games just really nicely on a nice screen and rechargeable on USB-C instead of the big fat Game Boy Advance SP sort of charger, having to find that and plug that in.
So you want to plug the man or?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's GameBoyCustom.com.
There you go.
Yeah. And I found them through Instagram. Their main sort of social media platform is on Instagram. So the Facebook marketing machine got to me because I was just like on a kick. Like I was just Googling it, YouTubing it, seeing people make them, and came up on Instagram. I'm like, oh, you're Australian. I'll go into your site. I like that red one.
That's good. Yeah.
I've just been on like a big red kick recently. I was just like red hardware. So I went and bought the Pulse Red Xbox controller. I got the red Switch. Got the red Game Boy Advance. I went on to Facebook Marketplace the other day, and I finally got my first DSi XL. I got a red one of them, so that's coming in the post the next day or next week or so. I've got the Pokeball Red 3DS. So that's pretty much like my platforms all redded up.
Yeah, and now you're just going to send in your PlayStation 5 for custom plates. You're going to de-shell your Xbox Series S and get that done.
No, not the actual console. I like the PS5 how it is. I see like people like making them black and stuff. I'm like, I like the white, so I'll leave it white. Maybe a red controller though. Red DualSense controller would be pretty cool. So yeah, that's been my bit of a retro kick. I'm always sort of going on like, I get like in a real retro mode and I just want to like play Game Boy games and Game Boy Color games and DS games and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm on one of them at the moment.
Yep. And it's you got a nice, beautiful companion to do it with.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah. All right. So Bryce, let's jump into some news. And the first bit of news is actually kind of relevant to the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance sort of retro scene. So let's get into it.
Woohoo! Yeah! Pika, pika! Is that all?
Dog on a log.
My friends.
Woohoo!
My body is still.
So, one of the most heartbreaking things of 2020, Bryce. I know there's a lot of hard things that happened that year.
It was.
This might have been the hardest one. And just before I get into it, that was a joke. Don't take offense to this. The Analog Pocket, it got sold out for pre-orders in like the first 2 minutes. Didn't get my hand on one. For anyone that doesn't know what an Analog Pocket is, it's basically like a really upmarket Game Boy that plays Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and has adapters for other platforms like Neo Geo and stuff like that. It's just like a really sort of premium retro game playing machine that you can also buy a dock for and play on your TV.
Yep.
So it operates like Nintendo Switch. And it was like basically the thing I've been wanting someone to make for ages. And someone's finally making it. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to be there. I'm going to buy one of these things. And I had like $500 down on, the system, screen protector, just all the accessories, the dock itself. I'm like, I want one of these because I just want to play my games in HD on the TV and just like really get into the Game Boy Advance library like that. But it sold out real quick. But there's an article from IGN that sort of goes into how they're going to try and restock things. So the article from IGN reads, if you missed out pre-ordering Analog Pocket's gaming handheld, there's good news. Additional pre-orders are coming, and Analog says it's implementing bot and scalper protectors to help ward off resellers. Bastards. In a new post, Analog laid out their plans for 2021 pre-orders. Analog says that they're implementing robust bot protection and all orders placed using bots will be cancelled and inventory will be relocated to real customers. For human scalpers, Analog says they'll be working with eBay to monitor accounts selling access to pre-orders, which is against eBay's terms of service, and will cancel them. So the quote from Analog is, the current global state of affairs has resulted in consequences that have affected the worldwide supply chain and has temporarily slowed down our ability to keep many of our products in stock and reduced production capacity for Pocket, Analog said. We are aware that many users are frustrated that Pocket pre-orders sold out quickly and both Super NT and Mega SG are currently unavailable. The Analog Pocket is effectively a modern reimagining of the Game Boy, featuring a sleek minimalist design a Game Boy-like envisioned by a PS4 designer. The Pocket is compatible with 2,780 Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance cartridges. It also works with cartridge adapters for Game Gear, Neo Geo Pocket, Atari Lynx, and others. Though it has 10 times the resolution of the Game Boy screen, the Pocket can also utilize an original display mode to replicate the original game's look. As if that weren't enough, the Pocket also features its own music creation and game design software. So that's another thing actually. Like you can plug it into your computer, and you can use it as a sort of, you know how chiptune artists use like the Game Boy sound card.
Yeah.
Like you can actually plug it in and use like the software to do your own music and create your own games. It's a dev kit for Game Boy.
Oh, that's cool.
So it does like so many things. So I was just over the moon that this thing existed. So I was just all on. But hopefully throughout the rest of this year, they do open up some pre-orders, because I would like to finally get in there. So just a bit of news if anyone else is out there who also wants one of these things. All right, so before we get into the Nintendo Direct sort of roundup as well, this was a big thing that happened over the last week, Bryce. So this is from IGN as well. So Dinosaur Planet, playable version of Rare's cancelled Nintendo 64 game leaks online. And this was nuts. I saw that you retweeted this. Is where I first saw it. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's just like nuts. So
massive news.
We'll read the article and we'll jump into it, Bryce. So Rare's cancelled Nintendo 64 game known as Dinosaur Planet, which ended up being repurposed into the GameCube's Star Fox Adventures, has leaked online and is fully playable. Forest of Illusion on Twitter released the files to Dinosaur Planet and shared some screenshots of the game that featured Star Fox's Fox McCloud. So from Forest of Illusion on Twitter, they say, "Today we have released Dinosaur Planet by Rare for Nintendo 64. The development was halted and moved to the GameCube, where it was released as Star Fox Adventures. Enjoy!" And they post a link to the ROM dump, as well as many screenshots, where it's like, just seeing this game in motion is just like, oh my God, especially as a Nintendo fan and hearing about it and sort of like the history behind Star Fox Adventures, to actually see the original Nintendo 64 game is just like kind of mind-blowing.
It's mad.
Furthermore, while this version of Dinosaur Planet is not currently run 100% on any emulator, Forest of Illusion states it will work perfectly fine with flash cards. So if you've got a flash card for your Nintendo 64 which uses micro USB or anything like that, you'll be able to play it pretty well. Apparently, I've been seeing a lot of people that they've had to like change some formatting and some names in the files to get it to run perfectly. But I'm sure if you do want to try that out, you can get onto Reddit or something. Continuing on, Forest of Illusion purchased a disc from a private game collector in Sweden that had a build of Dinosaur Planet on it from December 1st, 2000. It is said to be a late build of the game, and that it would need some hacking to be fully playable to the end. Dinosaur Planet, as previously mentioned, becomes Star Fox Adventures and was released in 2002. Our review, we said Star Fox Adventures arrives as a truly excellent 3D action adventure for the GameCube owners. It's a clear Zelda ripoff, and though it's not quite as good, it's okay in my book, as Rare has still done a good job on it. So, from your point of view, Bryce, what do you think of this as just from a historical point, and would you like to play it?
I probably will play it, but you know what? The funny thing is that actually, from what I've viewed so far, the start does not differ much from actual Star Fox Adventures at all. So, you have the first section, you play a bit as Crystal, and you know, you run into General Scales and all that stuff, and then you play as Fox for a bit, who is known as Saber in Dinosaur Planet, because it was before Fox was technically the character, but this build is also from a time where they made the switch to Fox. So
right, yep.
Which is really strange, but yeah, that is how it is. You do the start section, and you're playing as Fox, and you do the motorbike section, and then you meet Tricky, and like all of it is relatively the same. It's really crazy how similar the build actually became from, scrapping the N64 lot and then going to the GameCube and using many of the same concepts. The only thing that did change drastically was the fact that they added in their own language for was it the dinosaurs, but I can't remember what it was, Chrysolin or whatever. Anyway,
Don't know.
some language, right? But it like overall, it's looking very similar to what Star Fox actually came out in. I'm interested in playing it from a historical standpoint because technically I've already made my way most of my way through Star Fox Adventures anyway, so I know what the general outcome is. Except obviously, as you go further on, when it made the switch to Star Fox, plot things changed, like especially near the end,
Right.
because they retconned in Andros and Falco in there somewhere, and just things like that. And obviously that's not going to be present in Dinosaur Planet. Because it's a Nintendo 64 game, I would imagine that it's drastically shortened down. So when somebody actually manages to get a playable build up that is finishable, I will probably play it till the end. A lot of people remember SNES and 64 as Rare's big old golden era, and I feel like this game probably is within that sentence as well. But I think the reason most people don't like Star Fox Adventures is because it's not the Star Fox game they wanted. And you know what? Like, I completely understand it. But, this is a good look at what they were trying to create before it becomes Star Fox. So I think it's definitely going to be interesting to sort of judge it as its own product and see how it stacks up against like all the other Nintendo 64 titles and SNES titles that Rare did that were just absolute gems, whether it be Donkey Kong Country or Banjo-Kazooie, GoldenEye, all those games that hold such high value in Rare's catalog. It'll be very interesting to see where this sits. The other thing was, though, is on top of this, and something that we haven't mentioned yet, is that Rare had another leak before this, and that was the Xbox arcade version of GoldenEye 64. So that leaked about a week and a half before. So that's a thing, but it's what you expect. It's GoldenEye 64. But this Dinosaur Planet is a huge, huge undertaking, which means that the next thing that's probably going to be leaked, if there's things to be leaked at all, is probably the original Conker's game, which was 12 Tales, which is obviously completely different to the final product. So it'd be interesting to see if they have like a full build of that out there, something that's eventually going to get dumped, because that was, a 3D platformer that went missing, and something that Nintendo 64 was very, big for was 3D platformers, being, Banjo or Mario 64 or what have you. So it'd be very interesting to see if 12 Tales comes out as the lost 3D platformer.
Yeah, we'll see where it takes us. Because, I want to go and give this game a go too, but it sounds like you need a flashcard to sort of get in there at the moment. And I'm going to get in there when the hackers and all that have made it nice and easy for me.
Yeah.
Just download and
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
add it to my emulator. Yeah. So, just really cool. All right, Bryce, so let's move on to the Nintendo Direct. Obviously, this was a big thing that happened last week, and we sort of missed the wave on this one, unfortunately.
We did.
But
it's still going to be worth talking about.
Man, wasn't it exciting? Just like the day before, there's going to be a Direct, 50 minutes worth of content to get our sort of our teeth into. And I was just like, finally, it's here again. They're not dead. 17 months without a Nintendo Direct. A proper one.
I think they never ended up finding a way to deliver news more effectively without people being like, "Where's my fucking Direct?
Where's my Direct?
Where's my fucking Direct?"
All us Nintendo podcasters, come on, give us a Direct. We need to talk about something here.
We're literally sitting here scratching our asses every week.
Yeah, here's that Mario.
Oh, Mario.
I want a new Mario game.
Maybe they'll announce it in a Direct.
Maybe they will. So before we get into it, Bryce, I guess if you had to give it a score out of 10, what would you give it?
7 or 8.
7 or 8. I'll sit on an 8 as well. I thought it was pretty great. It didn't like blow my mind or anything, but I thought it was just, there was a fair few games in there. I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. That's either a purchase or a add to my wish list.
Yeah. I think its major problem is that it's got 2 anniversaries like wedged in, like right now, which is Pokemon and Zelda, which are in the same week, and a lot of people expected this direct to contain probably a bit more than just Skyward Sword HD of all things, and you know, to a degree, maybe I did too. Maybe I expected a little bit more, but you know. The Smash announcement was enough to keep me hyped. And Mario Golf, that rush mode looks fun as fuck.
It does, yeah. But so it's like going into it, I honestly didn't have any expectations. I was just like, I'm excited to see what we're going to get before June because at the moment we know, like 2 games. So I was just keen to see what it was. I wasn't expecting Breath of the Wild 2. I wasn't expecting all these Zelda games. I wasn't expecting, big game from said franchise. So I went in pretty open-minded, whatever, but I know like a lot of people were disappointed because Breath of the Wild wasn't there, and it's like, I don't know, man.
They're going to have their own separate direct.
Yeah. Before we jump into it, I do want to just say some expectations people had. So there's a poll on Nintendo Life, and so going from the bottom, I guess, so the option was, nope, I had hoped for much more, especially after all this time. So 25% of people voted for that. Then 30% of people voted for, I expected a little more and I've been left slightly underwhelmed. And then 8% voted for, I'm not really sure either way, so whatever. And 31% of people said, well, it wasn't mind-blowing, it did meet my expectations. And 7% of people say, yes, I was utterly blown away. So, I guess the winning one was people weren't just blown out the water, but it was good. It was fun. And I guess that's what I would vote for too if I was voting on this poll. It was good. We got some good stuff out of it. I think most Nintendo fans or even casual Nintendo fans would have gotten at least 2 games out of this they can look forward to and add to their wish list and make a pre-order. But I think just like maybe some people got the expectation like 50 minutes is a long time. That is a long Nintendo Direct. So that can sort of put up the expectations as well. So I'm going to go through sort of the article from Vooks.net, who round it all up nicely. So we'll start off with how they ended the Direct with Splatoon 3. And this was a big surprise, mainly because, Splatoon 3, it wasn't necessarily 100% on the cards to be like coming soon, but also that it's coming in 2022. When the trailer sort of finished, I went like, what? Because they said like, oh, this is content for like the first half of this year. And we got like a fair bit of content that wasn't the first half of this year and is actually fairly far away. So there were like still a lot of unanswered questions for like what we're going to be doing in 2021. Mm-hmm. But anyway, Splatoon 3 is exciting that we're getting it. It's kind of like Metroid Prime when they're like, it's happening. So it's like, oh, well, thank God it's happening. Whether it happens in 8 years or whatever, at least they acknowledge that they're going to be doing it relatively in like the next so many years. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When the trailer started, it just like, it looks awesome just with, just like the weapons and being in that completely different theme as well, being in that desert theme. And how sort of the last Splatfest was Chaos versus, I forgot what it was. But anyway, Chaos won. So this game is basically based on Chaos because of the results of the last Splatfest, which I think is just a really cool idea. And I know Splatoon, going into Splatoon 2, did the same thing as well. Yeah. But yeah, I noticed like a few things going into this one where like the match starts and you're sort of on this like hovering platform and you aim sort of your reticule to the ground and that's when you dive down and start the match. So instead of all starting at the same place, you can sort of like aim your, reticule to decide where you start. So that's this thing right off the bat I noticed. And I do hope this game sort of moves into a bit more modern day multiplayer sort of thing. Because when Splatoon 2 sort of came out, it was like the time Fortnite and a few of these other games were starting to pick up and sort of their model seemed a bit dated already.
Yeah.
As good as it was, like it's all free. You buy the game once and they update it with Splatfest, they update it with new weapons and stuff. So it's actually a really nice sort of consumer forward-facing way. But I think just like now with battle passes and just like the evolution of games and how they can constantly evolve and stuff, I think Splatoon 3 could definitely benefit from that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And do you think that Splatoon and Nintendo would take such a drastic step to make Splatoon 3 I don't know about free to play, but maybe cheaper with like battle passes and that to supplement it, or do you just see it being the same thing? Pay $80, no microtransactions, and rolling on the same sort of wheel as Splatoon 2.
Yeah, I don't think they will. No. Not until they can justify having the playlist and like all that stuff, and they could do so much with Splatoon as a concept, and they really need to work on like having a decent matchmaking system before they can even think about it.
Yeah.
Whether we get that in Splatoon 3 or Splatoon 4, who knows? But I'm hoping that it does happen eventually, because the fact that, after, what is it, like an hour or something like that, the maps rotate or, what have you.
That needs to go.
That needs to go.
Off the bat. I don't think they'll go free to play or sort of change up their model that much either, because like with Fortnite, like it's on every platform you own in your house. There is nothing that it's not on.
Yeah, it's on your fucking refrigerator.
Yeah, so like free to play, it just gets it out there as much as possible. Whereas like this game is just on Switch, so making it free to play, I don't know if there's that much benefit. Like this game's going to sell 10 million plus anyway, regardless. Like, there's a big audience for Splatoon, and in Japan it just went nuts. Like the Splatoon 3 trailer was more than the actual direct as far as views on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like it doubled it. Like it was just nuts. So Japan has always been just crazy for Splatoon. So going to free to play, I honestly don't think they'll gain that many more players necessarily jumping into it. Obviously they'll gain a few million, not a few, but I don't think it'll be enough to be like, all right, drop the $80 price tag and make it free.
Yeah.
So I agree with you there, but they do need to change some things up, just like as far as like you said, matchmaking, no more rotations, a few more modes, things like that.
Yeah, definitely.
So keen for that.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked about Skyward Sword, and I was just, when Enuma came up, I'm like, it's Enuma. Oh my god! Like I got excited, and he's just like, now you would expect. Oh, sorry. Some of you might be expecting that I'll be talking about Breath of the Wild 2. I'm like, yes, I would.
Yeah.
Yes, I would expect that, Enuma. What are you about to tell me? He's like, well, I got nothing for you. I'm like,
not right now.
I'm like, oh, fair enough. It's been a tough year. It's a big game.
Just give us a new trailer, man. Like I don't even need that much to keep me satisfied. I just need a new trailer.
Just do what EA and Ubisoft do. Just make shit up. Just make it up. Put it in a trailer.
Fuck, look at Anthem. Jesus. They made that up to the point where it now no longer exists.
It's just like, they can just put out a trailer. It's like, oh, look, it's Zelda and there's ghosts here. And Link's got to go shoo ghosts. Go away. And they'll go, okay, and buy them. It's like, well, isn't that a trailer?
Oh, yes. Anything to satisfy my Zelda craving. Anyway.
Yeah. So, no Breath of the Wild 2 stuff yet. But I guess let's talk about sort of the lack of, I guess, other Zelda news apart from Skyward Sword. Obviously, we just sort of celebrated the actual birthday for Legend of Zelda with the first game coming out in Japan this week. Mm-hmm. And Nintendo said nothing. Obviously, they're holding it because they have stuff to market later in the year, and that's when they'll say, it's Zelda's birthday. So
I kind of wish they'd just acknowledge it, though.
Yeah, they can at least saying today was the release of Legend of Zelda on NES.
They didn't even fucking acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Just like, guess it's Zelda's birthday. Yeah. But like regardless of that anyway, Direct will happen. Like it has to.
Oh yeah, of course.
We had the Mario one. Like Zelda has to happen.
Like it's just money left on the table. They can sell us stuff. They can sell us stuff.
Yeah.
The only thing I sort of think about is like, are they looking at their release radar for like the next 2 years and saying, oh, we're actually a bit light in say the middle 3 months in 2022 or something. So we're actually going to hold Wind Waker HD or something for that period. I mean, that's the only thing I can think about, but
it's definitely possible. But like you mentioned with this Direct, where they said, oh, we'll be focusing about all the stuff that's coming in the next 6 months or whatever.
And they lied.
Most of it was not in the next 6 months.
They always do though, so,
so it is sort of a case of like, I have a feeling they'll be talking about Zelda sooner rather than later. All right. Like obviously we've got Pokemon coming. I'm dead certain that everybody is convinced it's Diamond and Pearl remakes for that. And Centro Pokemon Leaks has been posting every fucking thing they find. So,
oh my god, someone said that it's Diamond and Pearl remakes. It's like, what's your source? It's like, well, it makes sense because it's the next game to be remade.
Well, they reported on like a sound file today that was like a remixed,
say that,
yeah, like a remixed platinum song or something. Anyway, anybody could do it. My point being,
oh yeah, it's just a Glitch X City song or something like that.
Anyway, so Zelda has to be directified very soon, I reckon. And Breath of the Wild 2, I think everybody is still fairly convinced that's the system seller for the Pro.
Yep.
Which is why they haven't said much about it yet, because they're also not willing to divulge on the fact there's a Pro yet when they've got 2 limited edition consoles floating around at the moment. So they're trying to get people to buy them first before they go, yes, there's a Pro.
Oh gosh darn it, I just bought this red one.
Oh dear. Well, I guess I'll have to spend more money. That's most Nintendo fans, by the way. They just don't seem to understand that.
It's like, my wallet, it's empty, but I'll find the money, don't you worry, Nintendo.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It's like Nintendo is basically a drug dealer. It's like, it's like, you've got a Switch Pro? It's like, all right, I'll get the money somehow, Nintendo.
Please, Nintendo, don't beat me.
It's like, well, you would have had the money if you didn't buy all those PlayStation games. It's like, I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to buy a PlayStation. I just wanted to...
I just slipped. A lapse. I'm sorry, Nintendo.
My bank card slipped out of my wallet and onto the FPOS machine.
Yeah. Don't even talk about that Xbox you got there, sons. Oh, hope you didn't. Wish you didn't say that one.
Mate, you're friends with Xbox. What's your problem with them?
We're not that friendly.
They're still our competitors. We want money. Anyway, yeah. So I think that could probably be why they're holding it. But in terms of the other stuff as well, whether it be the HDs that have already been brought out for Wii U being ported and stuff like that, yeah, they're definitely going to be filler games, like to fill in months. I think.
Yeah.
I think there's no ifs and or buts about that whatsoever.
Which is fine, but I feel like that they are running out of filler games for the Wii U.
I tell you what.
So, tell me, boss.
I tell you what. I want them to release an app on the Nintendo eShop that is similar to the Kirby channel on the 3DS.
Oh yes,
right. You know the Kirby channel. You
can watch how could I forget about the Kirby
episodes
channel?
Episodes of the Kirby anime. I want that, but I want the entire cartoon collection of The Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
on the apps.
Opposed to that. Yeah.
Well, excuse me, princess.
There'll be like one day where I'm just like, I really want to hurt myself. Let's download some classic Zelda cartoons.
I really want to scar my memory of Zelda. Well, excuse me, princess.
My day's been too good. Let's watch some Zelda cartoons.
Excuse.
All right, that's enough. All right, let's move on to Mario Golf Super Rush.
Yes.
This was one a lot of people like sort of crossing their fingers for, and when I saw it, I'm like, yes.
Yeah. I could actually go for a new Mario Golf.
You know what? I can too. I've never really gotten into a Mario Golf, to be honest.
I was a big fan of 64. Huge fan of Mario Golf 64. I love that game.
I've sort of like missed all of them, and at the start of sometime last year, I actually thought to myself, I went and picked up like the PGA golf game on Xbox. I'm like, you know what? I could actually do with like a bit relaxing golf game and whatever. And I sort of feel the same right now with Mario Golf, to be honest. Just a bit more fun atmosphere and a bit more, arcadey to get into. So this comes out on at the end of June. So I'm actually looking forward to this. And like,
yeah, me too.
They showed off the speed golf, and I've never really played many golf games. Apparently, it's kind of like a mode in a lot of golf games, but it looks like a lot of fun where you hit the ball and you quickly run to the ball to like keep hitting it. So you're not actually taking in order turns. You just like It's kind of like party golf, that Switch game in some respects. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It looks nice. I just I'm a little bit standoffish, just with Camelot's last game being Mario Tennis, and that game looked awesome before launch. Like, oh, it's got a story mode. It's got like all these characters, and it has like, post launch updates for free. Like it had everything in it to just be like, this is going to be a fantastic Mario Tennis game. And it comes out and sort of the multiplayer is like, it sort of loses its appeal pretty quickly. And the story mode was pretty average as well.
I kind of feel like golf is harder to fuck up than tennis, though.
Hopefully, yeah.
I think it personally is. I think like golf games are harder to fuck up than tennis games.
Yeah. It's just a lot of people looking at this and being like, oh, well, it's got that story mode, so it takes you back to like the Game Boy Advance and like those story modes in those previous games. I'm just a bit like, will it be that good? I don't know. But
yeah.
It's a pickup from me anyway. Hopefully it's going to be a fun game that lasts us a long time. And I sort of want to encourage people on the lead up to this game, get into the House of Mario Discord. I think it'll be a fantastic game to sort of do tournaments with. Yeah. Because you don't have to play together at the same time. You can just take turns and add to the scoreboard. Yeah. So be something you, myself, and the guys in the Discord will get into, I hope.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So let's talk about the Animal Crossing plus Super Mario collaboration they're doing. So just Mario items are coming to Animal Crossing, and it's all pretty standard stuff. You got your superstar, your mushroom, flagpole, all of that type of stuff, and it looks pretty cool to have that in your village. But the thing that just caught my eye straight away was the warp pipe. You can add 2 warp pipes in your island, and you can use it to warp from one to another. So it's just like a super useful item as well as just being aesthetically cool. You can like put it outside your house and you can use it to warp to like the town or something, so you don't have to run down. It's just like a really awesome like quick travel sort of option for the game. So yeah, that's exciting at that point. And I think I will go back to Animal Crossing just to get all this stuff. Been meaning to for a long time as it is, so I think this is just a good excuse to get into it. And sort of like the festival sort of events and that, didn't do too much for me. Yeah. I just want to use Animal Crossing as like a moment to like just point out my horror. I was going to talk about it when we were talking about Splatoon, but when I was getting my new Switch, I reminded myself I needed to transfer my Pokemon save because it doesn't support cloud. If I lose that save file, I will hit my head against a wall as hard as I can because I put a lot of hours into that game. I moved my Animal Crossing save because, I was almost thinking like, I might as well start again. But I'm like, wait a minute, I've played like 80 hours of this game. No way. Because the start is grueling as well in that game. So I'm not doing that again. No. And I'm going through my games, making sure everything's backed up. I'm like, cool. Yeah, factory reset, trade it into EB Games. And the other day, Meta was like, oh, well, with the announcement of Splatoon 3, I might play some Splatoon 2. Anyone want to play? I'm like, yeah, I'll play. I'll be happy to play. I'm thinking, like, wait a minute. I never transferred my save, and that doesn't support cloud saves, does it? I'm like, fuck. And it's just like that big, like, sinking feeling. I'm like, fuck. My Splatoon save's gone. And just, how dumb is it that there's an online game that you can't even back up your save for?
Or keeps online progress.
It's ridiculous.
Everything keeps online progress now. Like, even COD and, like, all that. Yeah.
So just quickly, that is a thing Splatoon 3 needs to fix. It just needs to be able to cloud save, keep your progress. So I don't think I am playing Splatoon 2. I'm not playing that shit again. I'm not doing all that again. All right, so this is the Smash news, Bryce. So Pyra and Mifra are in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And the way they introduced it at the very start of the Direct, how it was like very much in-engine cutscenes for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Yeah. And it looks like DLC or something.
I thought it was going to be Xeno 3.
Yeah. And it's just like, because they set it up like that, like, oh no, the character's gone. And it's kind of like a standard sort of trope in JRPGs where it's like, the character's gone, got to go and find them. Yeah. And just like the bit where you come across Pyra and she's standing there and you can obviously see that it's Final Destination. I'm like, oh my God, this was the production value for this sort of introduction was just amazing. Like, a lot of Smash ones obviously are, but this one just sort of went beyond of what they had to do. It wasn't animated like in just like an animation studio or whatever. It was like the actual cutscenes for the game. Yeah. Which is really cool. So you're a big Xenoblade Chronicles 2 fan. So how do you feel about these guys jumping into the game?
Yes. It happened.
It happened.
Another Xenoblade rep. When it first came out, it's like, we wanted to add them into the game. But it was too late in development, so here's a me costume to help keep you in the goodie books. Yep. I'm just like, right, all right. I'm like, it's Rex. I'm like, there's still a shot. And Xenoblade Chronicles 2, you know what? The sales for that game in just worldwide this week went, Foop.
Oh yeah, everyone's like, oh, well, I better play this game. And like, I bought the game and I played like a tiny bit, but whatever. I don't know what I was occupied by at the time, December 2017. I got no idea. Couldn't have been occupied by.
You need to break a leg or something and just play all these games while you recover.
That's a great idea, Bryce. That's a great idea. But the thing is, like,
I'll get the hammer.
I've got a little bit of spare time now, but I'm putting all that into podcasting. That's my problem. I need to just like not talk and just play them.
Yeah, you need to ease yourself from doing so many podcast projects and just sit down and play some games for a bit because you're missing out on so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it was a huge thing because I was just like, there's still a chance. There's still a chance. I'm like, and if they're gonna do anything with it, it'd have to be Xenoblade 2. So the only characters I can think of them putting in is Pyra and Mithra. Reason being is because those characters use their weapons in the base game, and you know it happens in the opening cutscene, stuff like that. It's such a big thing. The swords in Xenoblade are obviously such a big iconic thing, and it just so happens that Pyra is the sword and Mithra is the sword. So I'm like, cool.
I'm sick of sword characters. It's like, well, we put in an actual sword.
Yeah, we put in a sword. It's not just a sword character anymore. We put in a sword. Anyway, so it was a big deal, and I was sort of like, you know, when I saw that coming, and then she turned around and she's like, I got an invitation to Smash. I'm like, it happened. It happened how I thought it would happen. Oh my god, it happened. That is so fucking good. I love it. Xenoblade 2 is one of my favorite games on Switch. And I did not really discover Xenoblade Chronicles at all until I was super hyped for X. So I emulated the first one because at the time I didn't have anything that supported the game and the game was impossible to come by. So I played through Xenoblade Chronicles 1, enjoyed the hell out of it. I started playing X before I played 1, couldn't really get into it, but then when 2 came out, I was like, all right, play through 1, then at least I'm ready for 2 if 2 is a continuation of some kind. Wasn't, but my god, I've spent well over 200 hours on that game, and that game is an 80-hour game. So I've been asking for a Xenoblade rep from that game for a long time. I know it's not every Xenoblade fan's cup of tea because it leans way more into its anime tropes, and I guess that disturbs some people. I'm not entirely sure why, because there was plenty of them in the first game, but because it doesn't, well, the original didn't really look anime because it couldn't. It was on the Wii.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are just like, oh, it looks so anime. So it falls into all these anime tropes. I'm like, you didn't play the first one then, did you? Because there's plenty of them in the first one. But just seeing the fact that there is 2 characters, and the fact they had that interaction between Shulk and Pyra in the trailer was interesting, because that is an interaction you will never see in the games unless you play Xenoblade Chronicles 2's DLC. So the fact that they put that in there is a good thing, because it is kind of like everybody believes that's where that's culminating to next, is these 2 worlds, which is 1 and 2, are merging, and that is where 3 is coming in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I won't spoil it, but yeah, because in the DLC for 2, you meet Shulk and Fiora, but the DLC sort of takes a stance that it's sort of earlier in the game that it happens. So there's 2 worlds are converging at the same time, but as you get further on, like, it just looks like these two worlds are coming together and creating something bigger, which will eventually become Xenoblade 3. So it's interesting to see that interaction in the trailer, because that seems like something that you know, obviously they're from the same game series, and you would expect like snapshots of them together and stuff like that to sort of like play that up. But having an actual voice line interaction and a CG clip of that there is kind of like, that's pretty neat.
Yeah. Like, again, it's like a natural cutscene from the game, which is nice.
Yeah. And like it, you know, it sort of confirms that they're treating the DLC as a canon thing. And as time goes on. So that was really interesting. As for the actual character itself, between Pyra and Mithra, it's interesting to see another shapeshifter again, considering, they've tried so long to try and move away from them and then brought them back and then, here, there. Though I don't think this character couldn't be done any differently. Like, it kind of had to be a shapeshifter no matter what. The moveset looks really fun and interesting to play. The fact that you can switch between a really speedy, a really high speed attacker and then not a really, but a sort of a sluggish high smash capability attacker is really good. And you'll probably see a lot of configuration with people and Zelda and Sheik, how a lot of people will tend to try to play one but not so much the other.
Yeah,
because that's what they get used to. But as for me, like I'll find a way to utilize both, because to me it'd be like playing Shulk with Smash and Buster, constantly juggling the two to get the best result. And the moveset looks fun. Really can't complain. I noticed that on the form shift between Pyra and Mithra, there seems to be some invincibility frames, so it'd be interesting to see how that sort of comes into play. Whether they can use that as some kind of counterattack and how big the invincibility frames are and stuff like that. But I know that, a lot of those questions should be answered soon. We got a direct for them on the 3rd of March.
We do. On the 4th of March.
4th of March.
So just I put out there, so just some times for that if you're in Australia. So for us in South Australia, it's going to be at 12:30 a.m. So it's going to be a nice late one if we want to catch that one live.
Yeah.
But if you're in Perth, it'll be 10 p.m. If you are in Melbourne, it'll be 1 o'clock. If you're anywhere else, you can find out yourself, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm keen to sort of get a big deep dive into this, because they're always fun to watch when Sakurai does these presentations.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Be interesting to see what song selections he puts in.
Hopefully a few.
Well, I'm hoping I'm hoping the general battle theme, just so I can remember the Padraig memes. But yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm very excited. Yeah. It's just only a matter of time. I just want to play them already.
Yeah.
I'm really, really holding out.
I just want to add to it. So I'm sick of the people that I say this to every single character, but I'm sick of the people that just come for the spectacle, and when they get like an Xenoblade character or a Fire Emblem character or just a Nintendo IP, they're like, "Oh, this sucks."
Why is it not Stingle McDingleberry from my favorite series from 1982?
That's a big spectacle character.
Yeah, Stingle McDingleberry.
Yeah.
Why the fuck isn't it Stingle McDingleberry? It's like, guys, they are a Nintendo company. They're going to use Nintendo IPs first and foremost if they so choose.
Yeah, and stuff like Byleth. I think that was important to get representation from the Fire Emblem game on Switch, and same with Xenoblade. Like that is the main Xenoblade game on the Switch at the moment. So I think it was important to get a character from that for that fan base, which is a franchise they continue to release and keep going. So, it's not like a lot of people are, Crash Bandicoot. Now I'm like, oh my God, just drop it. Yeah,
I'm glad you want Crash Bandicoot, but do you really care? Do you really care?
Yeah.
Do you honestly care? Do you honestly care about Crash Bandicoot being in there? And if they're like, yes, man, we do, it's like, okay, well, hope it happens.
It's interesting too, because Crash Bandicoot is actually coming to the Switch on March 12th as well. So we're getting Crash 4 on the Switch.
Which is good.
Which it actually looks pretty good, because they put screenshots. They actually kind of changed the art style to make it actually work on Switch, rather than just port it and make it that typical blurry sort of aesthetic. They've actually changed it, so it still looks nice and vibrant. It just sort of looks different.
That's good.
A little bit less detail, but there's still...
At least
really
that gives a bit more of an explanation of why it's taken so long to hit the Switch. Because it is the perfect thing for Switch. I mean, I've already bought it on Xbox, so I'm probably not going to bother, but,
I reckon if I pick it up, I'll pick it up on Switch.
I've got the collection on Switch, but I bought Crash 4 on PS4. I've already made some decent progress in it, so I'm like, eh.
So next up, Bryce, we got Horror Warriors expansion pass for Age of Calamity.
Haven't finished it yet. Sue me.
Yeah, this is a game where I'm just like been pretty lack on. Yeah,
I want to finish it. I can't bring myself to do it immediately.
I can't bring myself to do it. It's too scary.
Just when I know that there's Breath of the Wild 2 stuff coming around the corner, I think that's the problem. Where I'm like, I know that it's not anywhere near time for Breath of the Wild 2, but that's what I'm excited for. So I'm kind of thinking about that, and I'm not really thinking about this prequel.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, not in the mindset for it.
Yeah. I'm the same way. Not this DLC, you get like some more levels, some more weapons, a couple more playable characters, but it's all pretty up in the air of what that actually is. So
yeah,
get some more details later on.
We just know we're getting them.
Yeah,
and I knew it was going to happen. A lot of people are just like, a lot of people are just like, oh, it's probably not going to happen because they want to keep it as canon as possible. I'm like, you fucking kidding? Of course it's going to happen. And you know what? A lot of people are probably like. Well, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't think they'll add in anything that'll break that canon aspect too much. I'm like, I think they probably will in the DLC. And they're just like, no. I'm like, yeah, they will. They'll fucking put Lana in somewhere. They'll probably, because that's the character that they made specifically for Horror Warriors. So I don't think they're going to not try and retcon her in there somewhere. They probably will in the DLC. And then, I can't remember the full roster, but there's definitely going to be, plenty of characters, whether they be fan favorite from previous Zeldas and stuff like that, will probably get retconned in there somewhere along the lines of other characters that probably need to be inserted as well. Whether it be you play as a fucking guardian and just...
This is a disgusting sound.
That's what they sound like if they're made of flesh.
Oh,
they were almost once made out of flesh, and they looked fucking terrifying.
Oh, they would.
So yeah, like from the art book, they looked mad. Yeah.
All right, moving on to something that's not so mad. So something I hate it. Everyone probably hates it as well. So they're basically re-releasing Miitopia on the Switch. So Miitopia was a 3DS game. It was sort of like a late release 3DS game when the Switch was already out. And basically the game, it's like an RPG on rails where you can choose your Miis to fill certain roles. So I can make Bryce, myself, whatever, make a party of my friends, and go through the game and have different interactions with one another. And those interactions sort of play about how well they work together and their stats and stuff. So it's an interesting concept, but they're re-releasing it for $70 on the Australian eShop, and obviously physical as well. I'm like, it's not worth $70. Like,
No.
This would have been a game where it's like I would have been interested at 40 Australian, but they kind of lost me straight away with this one. Like,
yeah. Not interested at all.
Yeah. Project Triangle Strategy. They released a demo that day. It looked really interesting. It's sort of a spiritual successor to Octopath Traveler.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm keen to get into this. Haven't played the demo yet, but
Eventually.
yeah, this sort of like I've said it a million times, but this sort of gameplay with sort of like the strategy aspect of like being on the grid and stuff, it's not necessarily my cup of tea, but I just love like the aesthetic for a lot of these games.
Yeah.
And I wish I was into them. So I'll give this game a go, see if it can hook me. But I don't have any necessarily.
Fire Emblem's the only one I can get into.
Yeah.
Fire Emblem is literally the only one I can get into. I don't know what it is. There's heaps of grid-based games out there. Absolute shit tons of them, but it's the only one I can really get into.
It's the one made by Nintendo, Nintendo shill.
I think it's everything else around it that's the thing. Like the whole fact that there's a whole system behind it, a relationship system and stuff like that, where you can, pair off your characters and then they get married and have children, and eventually you can add those children to your party, and then they carry their best stats and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of like little intricacies in the background that make me go, this is nice, and I enjoy it.
I enjoy that stuff too. So, I don't think you'll care about this one, but Stubbs the Zombie coming to Switch as well as other platforms on March 16th.
Hardly remember it.
Re-release of a original Xbox game. So, that's cool if you're into that.
Yep.
Knockout City is the EA original game, basically multiplayer dodgeball. That looks actually kind of fun. I might give it a go depending on price or if it's free to play or whatever. But it looks relatively fun. I'll give it a go.
Very little faith in EA these days, so it'll probably be a pass from me.
Yeah.
I actually am playing an EA game at the moment, and that's Apex. But that's only because I got dragged back into it again. But even just looking at the Anthem news this week makes me go, yeah, I have fuck all faith.
No, I mean, it's been on the cards for a while. So.
No, it's been on the cards since 2 weeks after it launched.
Yeah, well,
but, you know,
exactly.
They literally damaged Mass Effect's reputation to get that game out.
Yeah.
Like, killed Mass Effect's reputation. So, I don't have faith.
Famicom Detective Club is coming out. It's
That was interesting.
Yeah. It's the first time it's launching outside of Japan. It's coming on the 14th of May as a double pack for the 2 games. I might look into this one and see how much it is and maybe play through it. Because I do enjoy these sort of games. I just don't play a whole lot of them.
No. Yeah.
So we'll see how this goes in reviews and stuff, and if I get into it.
Doki Doki was the last one I played, and I think that scarred me off him for a long time.
Yeah. So that was a nice price. That was free.
Popping eyeballs. Oh Jesus.
So this is a big one too, Bryce. This is a third-party game. So Fall Guys is coming to the Switch in winter for us, and it's also coming to Xbox as well at the same time. But it's nice that it's coming off of PlayStation and PC and coming to Nintendo Switch. And I think it'll be a great place to play it too. It's just like, you know, the Switch is my multiplayer machine, so having a game like this would be really good on it. I'll probably definitely pick it up, even though I was given it for free on PlayStation. I'm a shill. I'll buy it on Switch still. This one made me laugh. So Plants vs. Zombies Battle for the Neighborhood is coming to Switch from EA. And when the trailer came up, all I said to myself was, in 2021, they finally decided to release Plants vs. Zombies on Switch. How much longer could you have possibly waited to do this? This is like a 2018 move for them to do. Port Plants vs. Zombies to the Switch. It's a
useless move.
I was just like flabbergasted. I'm like, all right, so you finally decided to do it. Good on you. Cool.
Yeah,
Here it is. In 2021, we got Plants vs. Zombies, the third-person multiplayer shooter from EA, which is aimed towards kids.
It's Electronic Arts, Drew. I'm not even going to start calling them EA. I'm not even going to call them EA anymore. I'm going to brashly call them by their full name, Electronic Arts. Electronic Arts, go to your room.
It's like, Bryce,
think about what you've done for the last decade.
Yeah, Bryce DeWitt, you've been a very naughty boy. Now go to your room and you think about what you did to your brother. You don't have a brother. But what did you do to him?
No, I have no idea.
Maybe you did have a brother and you killed him, and that's what your mum was telling you off about.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But anyway, Electronic Arts, go to your room, think about what you've done for the last decade. Maybe, give some of that shilling money back to charity or something, because it's quite clear that you're not listening to anyone, and you haven't for a long time.
All right, so are you picking up Plants vs. Zombies?
Fuck no.
Okay.
I refuse to support EA.
All right, so moving on, we got Tales from the Borderlands. It's been basically re-released on all platforms since Telltale got the rights back to the game. They're re-releasing it on PlayStation and Xbox stores as well, and at the same time coming to Switch. Really great sort of Telltale game. It's worth getting if you can get it for the right price. A lot of fun. Outer Wilds coming to Switch. Sort of a game where you come across a new planet and you've got 22 minutes to sort of discover it before the planet blows up, and you got to start again and sort of uncover the mystery that surrounds it.
I love the meme that was like Fall Guys. Fall Guys was announced just before that. And then it's just like, Fall Guys is coming to Switch, and there's like this meme of this guy like, oh yeah, Fall Guys on Switch. He's like, yeah. And then all of a sudden it cuts into the next thing. It's like, you have 22 minutes before the galaxy implodes, and he's just like... I'm like, that's fucking brilliant.
Light-hearted, like, yay, fun with my friends. Then it's like sitting in the dark room, just, oh my god, just anxiety induced.
You have 22 minutes until the galaxy implodes.
That is a good meme. Star Wars Hunters, I was interested in this. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. Then I just see the Zanga logo come up. I'm like, I don't care.
Pass.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll prove me wrong, but I doubt it.
No, Probably not.
So No More Heroes 3 got a release date for August.
Mm-hmm.
So looking forward to that. That'll be a big one in August to play.
Yeah.
Neon White looks like a sort of first-person shooter / Mirror's Edge sort of hybrid cross anime. Looks really interesting. It's made by the developers of Donut County, which is pretty cool. That's a real fun game on mobile, Switch, and everything.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So looks like fun. Might look into that one when the time comes.
Yeah.
World's End Club. This is a game made by the I had it in my head just before, but when I saw the art, I just like it looks like Pokemon. It looks like a Game Freak game, just with like.
Wait, was that
the art.
What Ends With You? The thing that looks like What Ends With You?
Yeah, sort of. It's just World's End Club. Oh, I forgot the name of the other games they made. I had it in my head. It's gone. It's gone.
I just remember the cinematic. I was like, is this What Ends With You?
Yeah. Well, it's just like a similar name, I guess.
Oh, no, like in the trailer, they had like an art style with the characters, and it looked very fucking similar. World Ends With You.
Yeah, it does.
And then it just happened to be World's End Club or whatever. And I'm like, the concept is interesting anyway.
Yeah, it seems like a cool idea. So that comes out on May 27th. The Ninja Gaiden Master Collection comes out as well.
Oh, yeah, if you want
June
to feel
10th.
like your ass is being kicked constantly, sure.
Yeah, so this is coming out on all platforms, and it also brings Ninja Gaiden 3 off of the Wii U, which is good for players that didn't have a Wii U, which was everyone apparently. DC Superhero Girls Teen Power. This was like a bit in the direct. I'm like, all right.
Hi, I'm Supergirl.
Yeah, I'm like, all right. You kind of lost me for 2 minutes there, but
Yeah.
good on you. Apparently Nintendo is publishing that one.
That's
So-
weird.
So, like, good on them. Samurai Warriors 5. Are you going to get this one?
I'll pass for a while, but it does look really nice, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, no, looks pretty good.
Probably a lot better than what they did with Dynasty Warriors 9, but I'll let that slide for now.
Legends of Mana. It comes out on June 24th, and this is the first time it's coming to a Nintendo platform. It was originally on the original PlayStation, and it's been sort of remastered, recreated for current platforms. And this one caught my eye. It looks pretty cool. Like it's a traditional RPG, but you're sort of like building the world as you're going on.
Yeah. Super dope.
So I'm going to add that one to my wish list.
Yeah.
And the Capcom Arcade Stadium, we knew about it before, but it came out on the day of the Direct. And I was actually lucky enough to get a code provided me from Capcom for that game. So
Thanks, Capcom.
I'll be giving my thoughts on that once I get into it a bit more. But it's just like a really nicely put together compilation of old arcade Capcom games.
Yeah.
So that pretty much brings us to the end of that Direct, Bryce. So there was a fair bit in there.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it got us talking for, I think it was about an hour just there.
Yeah. Yeah, so cool. Looking forward to the next one, Nintendo. Hopefully it's not another 17 months. Holy.
Nah, next one will be Zelda. Next one has to be a Zelda Direct.
Yeah. All right, so let's get through the rest of this stuff relatively quickly before we talk about Zelda for Reggie's Rec Room. So this is just a quick one, Bryce. So Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2 is coming to Nintendo Switch
This is such a fucking good game. Please buy it.
on March 26th. So yes, you're a big fan of these games.
Well,
You reviewed it.
not even just these games, but this game in particular is the best way to do a fucking remake, right? Like, similar to how the Crash Bandicoot ones were done, everybody's like, oh, Insane Trilogy's so good. Like, no, this is fucking perfect. Like, you know, the problem Tony Hawk's had for years, and I mean fucking years, is that one, they had a HD remaster and it was fucking terrible, like, over the last few years. Two, Activision has squeezed out so many fucking bad Tony Hawk titles in the last decade that it's been terrible to try and get into any of them at all or recommend any of them. The last decent one was American Wasteland, but where I think it really died off is probably Thug 2. But it has been so long since we've had a game that recreates exactly what is so fucking good about arcade skating games since Thug 2, which I think was like 2002. It was like ages ago. So long ago. But, was it 2002? No. It was near that anyway, like maybe 2004, some shit like that. It was nearly 2 decades ago. But this game is fucking phenomenal. I played it and reviewed it. You can go read the review on dashgamer.com. It is the best way to bring back an arcade skating game since fucking forever. Tony Hawk endorses this game. And he has not endorsed his own series for the last 10 years. So that tells you how fucking good this game is. Please buy it on Switch. If you do not have any other platform to buy it on and you are interested in arcade skating games or you've been missing arcade skating games, please play this. It is really fucking good.
Yeah, because there was a bit of a teaser, like Tony Hawk was sort of like playing into like, oh, wouldn't it be good to see it on other platforms? And Nintendo of America's like, yeah, Activision, make it happen. Then like the following hours or days, that like, you know, it was a thing. So
Yeah.
they teased it a bit, and it was pretty funny to see on social media. But you know, I'm interested in picking this up because like it looks like really awesome on the other two platforms. But I can see myself just mucking around on this on handheld mode on the couch.
It'll work just fine.
Yeah, so. I think
Fucking amazing game.
it'd be great if we can sort of like find out how the port is, how it runs, how it looks, and hopefully all that holds up and it'll be a sort of a great handheld version of the game.
Oh shit, yeah.
All right, so moving on, this is just a real quick one, but this is something I didn't know until I was looking. So from Vooks, Pokemon Sword and Shield pens, Pikmin tote bags added to the Aussie My Nintendo store. So the My Nintendo store, it's always something I always forget about, but it's something that exists, and it's actually becoming better and better as it sort of goes on. Mm-hmm. So from Vooks, so the list of goods to redeem platinum coins on the Australian My Nintendo store continues to expand. Today, 2 new items have been added. First up, the 4 Pokemon Sword and Shield pens featuring Sleepy Grookey, Score Bunny, Sobble, and Pikachu. They'll set you back 500 coins. There's also a Pikmin tote bag for 400 coins that can be reused and folded. And I always forget about this, so I think it's just a thing to put on the podcast so people go, oh yeah, I might spend my coins because they do expire, which is dumb, especially when there's nothing good on there for months.
Yeah.
So you end up being like, all right, I'll redeem it for this wallpaper. I guess that's what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
From Nintendo Enthusiast, so Sakurai shares his thoughts on the changing PS5 confirm button. So in Japan, they always used to have the circle button on the PlayStation controller as the confirm button. But with the PlayStation 5, they universally changed it to suit the Western style, which was confirm with X and cancel with circle. And when I heard about that, like that they use the circle to confirm, I'm like, that makes way more sense.
Yeah, it does.
Like it's the same configuration as Nintendo, having confirm on the right, and also just the symbols make that much more sense.
Yeah, they do.
Like
yeah.
X is cancel, circle is okay. You know, it just makes more sense. But just into like dot points, Sakurai basically said this. So you can't just suddenly change something that people have been accustomed to for a while. If you think about the people it might trouble, then the proper thing to do as a developer is to support both, which is what they're doing over at PlayStation for years, since the original PlayStation. He also says the consumers feel like they have no choice but to adopt to the current situation. As a video game maker, I believe that it's something we must care about with the uttermost courtesy. And when you're not able to do the obvious thing, it becomes stressful. So that's basically the dot points from the Famitsu article. How he feels about the change, because it's funny when he puts it that way, because Sakurai, he puts so much thought into every single little move he makes, and I think him just looking at another company being like, yeah, we're going to change something on you after 20 plus years of you doing it. It must be just such a headache for PlayStation only gamers who have been playing like that for years over 4 PlayStation consoles to just swap. So yeah, because like, you know, here we were changing between Xbox and Nintendo. They're very different controllers. They just flip the script. So we're used to just like using different controllers and all that. But over there with Nintendo and PlayStation being the same sort of layout, they're used to doing it that way. So it'll just throw them off. But what are you laughing at? What do you think about this?
Just imagining like this big white man walking into the room, like waving like an American flag. And it's just like, that's right. It's like, it's X for yes and an O for no.
O for no.
X for yes and no for O. O for no. And everybody in Japan is just like, what the fuck? What do you mean?
Yeah. So this has been a thing for a while, but they obviously just asked him, what his thoughts were with the whole change. So interesting little tidbit there, and
Yeah.
doesn't affect us over here because we're always doing that reverse way. But yeah. All right. So also from Nintendo Enthusiast, they actually released a Stardew Valley board game, which released on the day. So just reading from the article on Nintendo Enthusiast, Stardew Valley, Eric's Baron, also known as Concerned Ape, has announced that Stardew Valley, the board game, is now available now after more than 2 years of developing it. He created it in partnership with board game designer Cole Mandios, whom he met and began discussing the idea of a board game back in 2018. Stardew Valley, the board game, is notably a cooperative board game for 1 to 4. You can play it by yourself. There you go. 1 to 4 players, ages 13 and up, and the game lasting about 45 minutes per player. Oh, geez. Game length can be tweaked if desired, but the website outright warns that you do not buy it if you're looking for a quick game to play. The game costs $55 US and currently only ships within the United States, but they are seeking to expand the game where available. So it actually looks really cool. So I don't know if you've seen this, Bryce, but just like the artwork of the cards and all that looks like a lot of fun. And I'm not really a board game player necessarily. Only because I've got no goddamn friends. But since this is one player, maybe I can sit there and just play a board game by myself. But I think if I was a bit more into Stardew Valley, just this as like an art piece would be great to get just for the cards and stuff.
Yeah.
But if you're a big fan of this and you do live in the United States, this is something you can go and get, and something us in Australia will have to wait a little bit longer to get.
Mm-hmm.
And moving on. So this is from My Nintendo News, and Zavi is launching exclusive full license Pokemon collection celebrating the 25th anniversary. So I've never heard of this retailer, but it caught my eye just because of like the cool clothes. So just showing Boros here. Got some shoes, some jumpers, sort of a bathroom bag there. I really actually like those shoes. I think I would love to get them if I can get them available here in Australia.
Yeah.
But UK online retailer Zavi is launching an exclusive limited edition and fully licensed Pokemon collection celebrating the franchise's 25th anniversary. The range will include an official collector's box in addition with a mini clothing line contrasting of 3 garments dedicated to the beloved character Pikachu. The apparel infuses a mixture of subtle black and white tones with bright pops of yellow featuring the iconic electrifying Pokemon character. So if you're in the UK, you can definitely get these, and we'll see if we get these elsewhere in the world, because like there's like the Levi sort of collaboration they're doing, and I think they look much like the Mario stuff they were doing. They look awful. I don't want a denim jacket just with a massive Pikachu on the back.
No.
No thanks. I'm not wearing that outside. Like I love Pokemon, I love Pikachu. I wear stuff a bit more subtle, but I don't want to be there like with a massive Pikachu or a massive Mario face, you know. I got to at least try to act like an adult every now and again.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm out there buying Pokemon cards, spending all my money on Nintendo stuff. Got to at least try.
I'm an adult.
And also, I haven't listened to this yet, but sort of moving on. So Reggie reveals his favorite moment as Nintendo America president. And he recently was on the podcast Gamer Tag Radio, which is an Xbox podcast, which has been running for 20 years or so. It's been going for ages. And Reggie was recently on that podcast, and I haven't got around to listening to it yet, but I'm keen to. But on there, he said, "There are so many things from my very first E3 and the famous words, 'My name is Reggie, I'm about kicking ass and taking names, and we're all about making games.' That was a phenomenal moment." And the same E3 where we played a Zelda trailer for what became Twilight Princess and having the media cry. I mean, literally, the jaded media. The folks had tears streaming down. The event where we launched the Wii and myself, Mr. Iwata and Mr. Miyamoto had a contrast who had won the opportunity to play live with us on stage. That was a magical moment. Each one was different. Each one was special. Each one helped drive the business, the brand, the products forward, and that's what made those 15 years with the company so special. So if you're interested in an interview with Reggie, go and check out Gamer Tag Radio on YouTube or podcast services.
Maybe one day he'll be here.
Yeah, exactly. Like, honestly, Reggie would be my dream guest.
Yeah.
And, obviously a lot of Nintendo creators I'd love to talk to, but just the language barrier between us and just obviously them working at Nintendo, they're not going to come on a podcast.
No.
They're going to be like, yeah, no, we're gonna skip that one, boys. And but Reggie, I would absolutely love to have him on. So if anyone with like a big following to actually get people to listen to them, give a tweet to Reggie, say, come on the House of Mario. Because we're way too goddamn small for him to even see us. We're way too small. But regardless, yeah. All right, so we've got a few more stories. I'll skip that one. This was an interesting one I found on Nintendo Life, and the article is, studies suggest that Nintendo Switch is the most eco-friendly console on the market. And just comparing it to some of the other consoles on the market. So the Switch is actually the ninth, not the ninth best, but the third best performing console for the last 10 years or so. So the best performing console, like for power-wise, is actually Nintendo Wii, then the Wii U, then Switch. So the Nintendo's at the very top. Obviously, they got the advantage of being the least powerful, so they need the least amount of electricity to actually power them.
Yep.
But like, for example, comparing it here, so according to a new survey from NerdWallet, Switch has been declared the most eco-friendly system of the current generation of consoles. According to the study's data, which collected between December 2nd, 2020 and the 4th of January 2021, using a variety of tools and websites, Nintendo Switch will cost the average user £101 in electricity bills throughout its lifetime, compared to £165 for the PS5 and £200 for the Xbox Series X/Series S. So, those consoles are a lot more powerful, a lot more going on. So, that's fair enough. But sort of thinking about this was always like a sort of an oversight for the Wii and the Wii U. Everyone's like, oh, it's a piece of crap because Nintendo doesn't know how to engineer properly because, their consoles lacked power. But they always, their consoles have always been real quiet, and they've always been needed like a low amount of electricity to actually power them.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think on that front, that was always things Nintendo engineers always looked at really closely. Whereas, I feel like the other guys don't care as much. Like,
they don't.
Chuck some electricity in it. Like, make the PS5 as big as it needs to be. Put some massive fans.
You have a literal fucking jet engine over there,
That's pretty quiet. Except the disc drive is very loud on the PlayStation 5.
I mean, it's shaped enough like a jet engine and probably will fire off like a jet engine one day.
I hope not. I paid a lot for it. I don't want it to fly off. All right, and that brings us to the end of the news, Bryce. That was a nice little fun time of news.
It was.
So let's get into some House of Mario Red Coin recommendations before we jump into Reggie's Rec Room.
All right.
Oh yeah. eShop updates. All right, so there's a massive sale on the eShop at the moment. I just want to bring your attention to. It goes for about another week or so. But some highlights on there is Among Us, which is at $4.51 currently. It's 30% off. Diablo Eternal Edition is 50% off. There's just a lot of games that are really cheap. I've bought a fair few. I bought Scott Pilgrim. I picked that up. That was 30% off.
Oh shit! I need to do that.
I see Burnout Paradise is 50% off as well. And they've actually lowered the full price down to $40 from $70. So they actually lowered it to like an acceptable place.
Thank God.
So you can pick it up now for $20. So I reckon I'll be picking up Burnout Paradise on Switch. And there's just like a bunch of stuff. There's Super Meat Boy, there's Unravel 2, Our Boy, Gris, Sid Meier's Civilization, Doom. It's 50% off, the original Doom. So there's just like heaps of stuff. So I recommend going to Vooks.net, and they've just like lined it up nice and easy for you to go and check it out. I'll put a link in the show notes to this article. And there's no real sort of brand new releases that are notable to talk about.
Yeah, just talk about the sale. That's all that really needs to be done.
Yeah. So there's over 1,500 games on sale. So it's just nuts.
I'll need to check it out.
Yeah.
And then prepare myself for next week and maybe do some buying. Especially if Scott Pilgrim's 30% off.
Yeah, it's about like $22. Works out the bit. Oh, I'm going to pick up the BioShock collection as well. That's 50% off. So I reckon I'll dive into that.
Yeah, not bad.
Get that on Switch.
Yeah, not bad.
All right, Ross, let's get into Reggie's Rec Room.
All right.
Haven't been there for a while, have we?
No, we haven't.
Hi, Nintendo fans.
Oh, God. I thought it was
Reggie
a skeleton for a second.
Thank you for your never-ending support, for giving me a mushroom kingdom full of incredible memories that I will never forget. Ever.
All right, Bryce. So, as we know, Reggie is a huge fan of The Legend of Zelda.
He is.
And even though he's not a part of Nintendo, he actually came out and said, "Oh, let's celebrate Zelda's 35th anniversary," which Nintendo did not do.
Yeah.
Did not do. They're saving it for their marketing a little bit later. Apparently, hopefully, they got some nice products for us to buy, we can get some money out of our wallets.
Mm-hmm.
But let's do a quick celebration of Legend of Zelda on this very show.
Sure.
Talk about how we got into it and some good memories of it. And just before we get into it, at the moment we're celebrating 25 years of the Pokemon franchise on the House of Mario ENCORE, which is basically our second Nintendo podcast where we talk about evergreen stuff. And I'm doing a season 2 all about Pokemon, going through all the regions and all that. And we're going to be doing a similar thing for The Legend of Zelda later in the year.
Yes. Yes, we are.
So yeah. But for now, how'd you get into The Legend of Zelda, Bryce? How'd you get into it, mate?
I got into The Legend of Zelda by picking the gold cartridge off the shelf. And you know what? I think that starts off for a lot of people who started in the N64 era. So I've still got my gold cartridge and I'll treasure it forever. I'll never get rid of it. It is by far just one of the crowning things that ever happened. It was the first game my grandfather had ever bought me because he didn't think too much of video games, but it was the only one he ever bought me. I picked it because it was gold and shiny and I wanted it. So
You're like a magpie.
Yeah, and I was like attracted to it.
Oh!
And Ocarina of Time, I played it, and it scared the ever-living lights out of me as a 4-year-old when it was nighttime. There were skeletons everywhere, and I was like, But you know what? The whole message for Zelda and everything it stands for is finding the courage to go and break through your fears and your limits. So eventually, I brought myself to finish the entire game, and it just became one of my favorite games of all time instantly, and it hasn't ever changed since.
Do you have like a moment like you remember that you're like, wow, this game is awesome?
Well, I guess probably just going into the Deku tree, like in the beginning, because like everything else before it's kind of like its own mini puzzle and kind of just irritating because Mido's a dick, but
He is
a fucking dick. But like going into the great Deku tree and seeing this entire dungeon that was just built out of the inside of a tree, and seeing that there was multiple layers, I'm like, what? There's this big hole in the floor. How do I get through it? And the solution is to jump from a high place so that you bend the web straight through and just fall straight through to the bottom. And like being like, whoa, like I never would have thought that as a solution to it. And then encountering Goma for the first time. Goma was mad because it was sort of like, obviously the eye is the weak point. It's the glowing spot's the weak point. It's definitely what I've got to hit. I'm like trying to slash it with my sword. It's not doing anything. I'm like, oh my god. And then she runs off and she starts laying eggs from the ceiling. I want to have all these baby Gomas like jumping around. I'm like, holy crap. And then I definitely died a few times doing that. And then I found out I was like, the slingshot. I'm like, oh, duh, of course, the slingshot. But at this time I was like 5 or 6. So I wasn't thinking too much about it. And then discovering that, beating Goma, that was like one of my big satisfying things. Because before this, it was mainly just, hey, look, it's Mario Bros. You face off against Bowser, you throw him into a bomb, you move on, next level, you don't do anything for a while. But something about Zelda bosses back then, especially in comparison to the Mario bosses, as much as I love Mario 64, just as much as I love Ocarina of Time at the time, there was something so epic about Zelda bosses that just felt, that little extra bit, like it was an absolute triumph to defeat them, and that they had their own method of madness, and beating them was such a big thing. Ocarina of Time, in its entirety, is like is a wow moment, but it's definitely those little things along the way, especially when you're that young, experiencing those things for the first time, like those boss fights or those very unique dungeon designs that it really does make you think there's something special about video games. And Zelda really taught me that.
Because like even as an adult, just the way Zelda puzzles are set out, like they just make you feel smart.
Yeah.
Like as an adult, you're like, oh yes, well I did it. Well, pat on the back. But as a kid, you're like, I am a god.
Yeah, I am genius, and that's what's so good about Zelda, and always has historically been. Even today, like figuring out something in Zelda is still like a eureka moment. And I think that's just what's so great about Zelda and Zelda dungeons and stuff like that, which is weird to say because, a common thing I say these days is I think Breath of the Wild is probably my favorite Zelda game. But there is no dungeons in it. So you would think, whatever. Like then if you get such a high from figuring out these dungeons and stuff like that, then why do you like the Zelda game that has no dungeons? And the answer is that there's 120 of them in the world. They're not all obviously as intricate or as well laid out as a Zelda dungeon and makes you feel like that intensity or stuff like that. But the puzzles in every dungeon, in every shrine, and the ways that you can do them, I suppose, like there's some that you don't even have to just look at them. You kind of just like bomb blast your way over to a certain obstacle, get that obstacle done, then bomb blast your way back, sort of thing. And that's sort of what's magical about Breath of the Wild is while every Zelda before it has sort of done dungeons in such a way that there's a one solution to the problem per room, Breath of the Wild there's 120 rooms, 120 different problems with about 20 ways to solve that one problem. So
yeah, I still remember being in the shrine where you got to like roll the ball to the end destination. Got to get it through like the little maze, then it unlocks the door, and you can progress and finish. And I think I was in handheld mode in bed, so I had like not much flexibility to actually do it without waking up my partner. So I'm like, oh, I can't do it. So I ended up just like shaking it and just like flung the ball to the other side, boonk in, and I was just like flabbergasted. I was like, what? And there's just so many moments in that game where it's like, I guess that worked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it just gives you a different feeling. Like when you're doing a puzzle, you're like, I figured it out. Pats on back for me. But in Breath of the Wild, it's very much like, I'm shocked that worked.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the thing, that is the thing about it, is that it expanded on that feeling for me that Ocarina of Time did bring me, that feeling of like, yes, like I'm fucking smart as hell, or that's really cool, or everything. Breath of the Wild sort of expands on that and gives you multiple options to experience that per shrine. So it was sort of like, it's been really hard to sort of come to terms, because it's like my battle at the moment is, do I choose Ocarina of Time, the game that gave me all these memories and sort of set me up to become the Legend of Zelda fan I am for the remainder of time? Or do I give it to Breath of the Wild, the game that expanded upon it and actually made me feel like the dungeons could evolve into something that's completely different and doesn't seem like a traditional Zelda game, but still somehow completely blow me away? And that's what Breath of the Wild did. So it's a real tussle between my favorite game at the moment.
Yeah, it's hard because it's like, just pure memories and nostalgia, or like giving you that feeling, but just like recently, which is a very hard thing to do.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, so I got into the series because of you, which I deeply appreciate. Because when I was a kid, you have your certain things like, I wasn't into Lord of the Rings, all this like sort of medieval stuff. I'm like, you know what, it's not really my thing. And I remember like, oh, Bryce, what game should I get? I know Zelda's getting like 9s and 10s in the magazines and Hyper magazine and whatever I'm reading at the time. But I'm like, I don't know, like $100 is just may as well be $1,000 when you're a kid. So I'm like, I don't know, should I get it? And it kind of came down to your recommendation and also not too much else at the time apart from like We Play
and WarioWare.
Yeah, I think it was before WarioWare. WarioWare's a week or a month or so off of coming out still.
Yeah, but you were thinking about holding until WarioWare,
yeah,
I remember.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, don't just hold for WarioWare. I'm like, WarioWare's fun, and like, but you're missing out on a Zelda experience.
Yeah, so I took the plunge. I paid the $100 as a kid. Went to Target Country and got it. And as soon as I put it in, I fell in love with the game straight away. And like looking back on Twilight Princess, like, you know, the opening is like, oh my god, this opening does drag on a fair bit, but I didn't notice when I was a kid.
No.
And I think it is a testament to that game, even though a lot of people are like, you know, Twilight Princess not so good, but it's a testament to the game because that was sort of the game that I'm like, this is awesome. This is one of my favorite franchises.
Yeah.
And it was a big pillar which actually moved me more to being a Nintendo fan rather than a fan of like Pokemon and Mario. It like moved me. That was like the next big series to get into before, you know, discovering a lot of more franchises on the Wii, whether it was WarioWare or Mario Strikers, and, you know, just continue on from there. But
Yeah.
I was just blown away just by just the dungeons and like how long it sort of takes to get through each one. I remember like I took the Wii to your place one night and I was going through the Gerudo Desert dungeon.
And you're up all night.
Yeah, I was literally up all night and, like, you know, playing through it now, I'll probably finish in half the time probably, but I remember being lost and like scared.
Yeah.
you were asleep and I'm like up at like, I was up to like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I remember like drinking Cokes and that, trying to keep awake. And like as the sun's coming up, I'm like versing the boss. I'm like, I've got to beat this thing because I'm ready just to hit the hay. I'm absolutely dead. And just how satisfying it was to finally beat it before the sun rose and all that. And yeah, like you said, just with like the bosses, how epic they all are, especially in that game. I think that game has probably the best boss fights in the series, to be honest with you, just with how fun it is to sort of verse them all, and some of the Zant fights.
Oh, the Zant fights are great.
How it's sort of like it's like a kind of a boss rush mode.
Yeah, yeah.
Or just that.
And it goes from being such an intimidating figure throughout the entire game to just this madman in a single minute.
Yeah.
And the fight just becomes this frantic, chaotic, like, mess. And you know, I love Twilight Princess, and I think it's very underappreciated as a game in many prospects. A lot of people are, like you said, they're like, yeah, it's definitely not a great Zelda game, not like Majora's Mask or Wind Waker, but I completely attest to that because Zant is one of the best off villains they've ever created.
I just love the sort of twist, being like,
Yeah.
oh, you're a goof.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just,
like the thing is he sets it up, and like even like the cutscenes with Zelda when he's like ambushing the kingdom and all that, he's made out to be this intimidating as fuck figure and like a hugely powerful, you know, I guess king, I suppose. And it turns out he's not that at all. He's just a creating madman who thinks he has the power of a god. And when he realizes he doesn't, he goes absolutely mental. And that was, you know, the biggest highlight of Twilight Princess, realistically, is knowing that this man is just a crazy idiot.
yeah. The game also stands out to me a lot too because the Wii was like the first console I owned. So a lot of those like story games and stuff I didn't really play that much. I just played like multiplayer stuff at friends, and like the single player stuff was just on my Game Boy or on my DS.
Yeah.
So this was like my first like 3D game I owned myself and played through. So when I finished it, I'm like, it was just so satisfying to actually get through that type of thing. And accidentally erasing my save file because I'm trying to be smart and do like a cowboy like turn around and like a duel to like select my save file, but I accidentally selected delete. Yeah,
Rip.
it's so dumb.
Yeah.
But gave me a reason to replay it, and I would love to see the HD version come to Switch.
Yeah. I want to see all those moved over. Like, I know they were probably some of the more purchased games on the Wii, considering what they are. But I would the Wii U rather. But I would love to see them moved over just so I could have them on a console that's well more supported. Wind Waker as well, I think, and like we talk about that for 2 seconds. Like Wind Waker, when that first came out, was considered, you know, trash. Nobody wanted it. They all wanted what Twilight Princess eventually turned out to be. But Wind Waker turned out probably if not as popular, more popular than what Twilight Princess ended up being.
I would say it is.
Yeah.
Definitely just by the voice on the internet.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, like it is an absolutely fantastic game. And I mean, I was sort of in the same camp, but I was willing to give it a go. And I'm glad I did because, like, you know, the Great Sea and everything attached to that, and its combat is really fluid and nice, and there's just a lot to do in Wind Waker. But it was such a huge departure from everything that Zelda was doing at the time. And that and its sequels were both like that. You know, it was such a huge departure from what the series was doing at the time, yet somehow they still managed to pull it off in such a satisfying way. And they even connected it to, you know, Ocarina of Time, through, like, obviously its own means or whatever, and the Ganon coming back, the Ganondorf coming back is the Ganondorf from Ocarina of Time, and, like, slotting that all in there. And that was, like, the real first established point of, like, how a timeline is important in Zelda. Honestly, I reckon it probably is, because it was so heavily tied to Ocarina of Time that it's just like, oh, then where does everything else fit then? Like, obviously Majora's Mask was a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time, so most people are like, oh yeah, you know, you just attach that to that, and you're like, oh, you know, this link is attached to that link, but you don't think much about this Hyrule is attached to this Hyrule.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where Wind Waker was such an important game.
It's what started all that bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's where Wind Waker was such a hugely important game.
Because I missed, obviously, all of that sort of hoo-ha about Wind Waker. Wind Waker was, to me, just like, oh, you know, Twilight Princess is awesome. Oh, what was the previous game? Oh, Wind Waker. That looks cool. And, you know, just through not having the game or a GameCube, or not having the game, I had the Wii, which could play it. But
and I lent you a copy of it, which I've still got somewhere.
You do?
Yeah, I've still got that copy somewhere.
Yeah. So you know, I just sort of never got around to it because I missed it at the time. And it wasn't until, like, the HD version where I'm like, you know, I bought it and played through it there, and just a really great game.
It is. It's a fantastic game. And the last few fights, with the Puppet Ganon and the duel against Ganondorf, both brilliant fights that make you sort of feel very much like the hero, you know.
Very violent.
Well,
the finale.
Yeah, the finale is pretty violent, but I mean, so is TP's as well, really.
Oh yeah.
You know, except it's through the chest, not the head. Anyway, but yeah, no. It's really strange because it's like, you know, I started all the way back. I started a whole 2 generations before you did with Zelda. And then, you know, I know people that started a whole 2 generations before me, so on the NES, you know. And I think, like, the one unified thing that is always a consistent is that everybody gets the same feeling of adventure from Zelda games, you know, and that dungeons are satisfying to figure out and all that. Like, there's always a consistent as to why people like Zelda. The difference is always based on where the generation starts. So people that started a generation or 2 before me were all into the top-down Zeldas because, you know, you had everything in your visible view, which meant, you know, you could work with the whole room in order to figure out a puzzle, right? I came in during the 3D Zeldas, and I like the 3D Zeldas because I like the scope and the epic that it portrays in, obviously, a 3D environment, and the puzzles sort of come secondary. And then with you moving into Twilight Princess, it was very much the same sort of scenario. Like, it is the epic of it, but it's done in such a way, like in recent days, that it's a larger scope than it ever was. Like, I can go back and I can appreciate Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time for what they were, and I'm not sure you could probably do that the same as I do because of where you started.
Yeah, well, I went back to Ocarina of Time on 3DS.
But the original, like, going back to N64, like, if you were to play that as it was on the N64, would you get that sense of adventure?
I mean, I played, like, through, like, the first quarter of the game, like, a fair few times on emulator and friends' copies and stuff. So, yeah, I don't have that nostalgia necessarily for the original version.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure. There'll be obviously a lot of things in there which you know, we've gotten used to just through modern gaming where it's like, just, swapping items or, just simple stuff like that where it'll be like, all right, this is a bit of a
pain in the ass.
Bit of a pain. And like, I even get that going back to old Pokemon games that I've played again and again. There are certain things where I'm like, man, this is actually a fair bit of a grind.
Yeah.
Because you've gotten so used to being like, all right, levels are right up. Let's keep zipping through the story.
Yeah.
So it's a similar thing there. I don't know if it's necessarily because I got into the series later. I think it's just through little conveniences we've had with gaming.
Yeah. Yeah. I do want to talk about one last game real quick.
Yep.
And that is probably A Link Between Worlds.
Beautiful.
And the reason I want to talk about that game is because it was the last game that sort of come out that Iwata was really heavily sort of mentioned in or involved in or what have you. And his name in the credits and at the end of the credits especially being such an important thing at the time. Because obviously it all hit us in a different way when that beautiful man died. Like, one morning I woke up and I looked on Facebook and the news was just there. It was like Satoru Iwata has died at the age of, I can't remember the exact age.
Yes, in his 50s.
Yeah, 58, I think, maybe, something like that. And I was like, holy shit. I'm like, this is massive. Like, nobody really knew he was sick because he was working all the time.
Oh, we did know he's sick, but to that extent.
Yeah, no, he kept his personal life pretty private, like he didn't want that out in the public and he wanted to deal with it in his own way.
Yeah, because he did like, some like press conferences and stuff, and you could see that he's just like lost heaps of weight and stuff. You're like, ooh.
Oh yeah, by all means, yeah. But he wasn't the type of person to play it up or anything like that, or what have you. He kind of just went through with it. But then later on in the year, obviously we got Link Between Worlds, and it was a game that I largely avoided for many years, and I'm a little bit sad that I did.
Yeah, because I always was like, man, you need to play this. Like,
yeah,
because it's a game that I remember it came out the same day as 3D World on Wii U, and I bought both on the same day, and I was looking forward to the big Mario game on the console. And 3D World was like, yeah, it's a 3DS game, which I'm sure would be fantastic, and I'll get to it. And I got to it a bit later than 3D World. And I remember it was summertime here, and working a lot in hospitality at the time, being the holidays, and I spent like most of my free time or time after work at night time sort of, depressing so I can go to sleep, playing that game. And I just I smashed it out as soon as I got into it. It just hooked me. And going through the game, just like the story and the puzzles and the overworld, it was just absolutely phenomenal. And I think it's one of the games that made me really say, 2D Zelda is awesome. Like I went back and, I play a lot of the 2D Zelda games, but I think that was the first one, which was like, this is excellent. This is excellent. Yeah. And the way the game ends without spoilers too is just like, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was damn awesome.
And that was like one of the things I'm like, Bryce, you need to finish this game, man. Like it's excellent. And you're like, yeah, you're probably thinking the exact same thing I was thinking. Like, it's a 2D Zelda game, and the art style's not like mind blowing. When they first sort of shown it off in a Nintendo Direct, a lot of people were like, it looks a bit bad, like just the art style was. But I think once it was like on your 3DS, not blown up and in 3D, I think that's where it sort of shone a lot more. Yeah. It looks like fantastic on the actual unit itself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but getting through that game, like it took. I had it, but it took me years to get to it. And when I eventually did get to it, I was watching clips or something, and I was just like, I really should just go and finish this game, shouldn't I? And like not thinking too much about it or like what context it held or anything like that. I sort of went off and did it. And I got to the end of it. And I remember saying to you, I'm just like, holy fuck. And like, why didn't I play it sooner? And then like, I was heart wrenched because at the end of it, there was like a little tribute to Iwata there. And I was like, fuck. I'm like, this game hurts probably more than it should, I think. Because it come from a year where, somebody who was a huge influence on so many people's lives in the games industry had just passed, and it, even just as a bystander and a person who sort of looked up to the man, I was like, I was shocked enough at the news as it was, but seeing like all this passion and like it was present everywhere, but a lot of people that worked on this game too had a lot of respect for Iwata. And even just that little message and an end at the end there was like, damn. And the ending to that game was just perfect. And like you said before, like it was just absolutely awesome. And it culminated to, the end of a really bad year in terms of news when it come to Iwata. And it sort of shone a light. And like, I guess it was a beacon to show just how important, it was to have a mentor like he was to a lot of people in their lives. And they really portrayed that in the end of that game. It wasn't much of a message, but it was enough of a message to show that, that's what mattered, I guess, is that while the man is gone, the legacy will always be left behind, and there will always be people who saw him as a friend, a mentor, somebody who was huge in the game industry, like, and the fact that they showed that through a Zelda game was absolutely awesome. We have a lot of things to thank him for. You got like the way they coded gold and silver. He did a lot of that.
Yeah, I just searched up, but when did you play through this game? Because this game came out in 2013, and Wada died in 2015.
Did he?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, because I was just thinking, I'm like, wait, this game came out.
Oh, no.
Because I was taking 3D World. I'm like, yeah, they came out in 2013 along with this, and Wada didn't die for another couple of years.
Well, that's my problem then.
So, but that's what this game meant to you, because with that context, that's how you played it. That was
the message at the end of it.
Yeah.
Like, they had like a sort of a little thing at the end of it, and his name was the last name in the credits.
Mm.
So I guess for me, that was what I took from it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, that's interesting, just with like that different perspective of playing that bit later. Yeah, how like I had like the emotional resonance of like, this was an awesome game, and the way it ended, and just how much of a good time I had with it. But you also had that moment where it's like this big figure in this company that you love the products of, the memories of.
It was just a huge
carried
thing.
In this game. Yeah.
It was just a huge thing because, like, I guess by the end of it, I'd sort of been taken aback because it wouldn't have been too far long after it. Then, trying to remember, because it was around the time Evie was quite young, and I guess just in terms of games where he was actually present, that was one of the last ones that I played. I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, because Iwata died on the 11th of July, 2015.
When did I finish it? I think it might have been September that year.
Right.
I'm pretty sure his name was the last name in the credits.
Yeah, because I remember...
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I remember it was like years later where I was like, you like said that you finished it. I'm like, yes.
Finally, you did it.
Yeah.
But no, just definitely coming down to the point. And seeing like that fucking ending. I remember being in tears over it, I think.
Well, let's put a spoiler warning, and let's discuss the ending, since it meant a lot to us. So, spoiler warning for A Link Between Worlds on 3DS. It might get remastered one day for Switch if you haven't played it. Not quite sure, but Bryce, let's talk about the ending. So,
sure. What
it mean to you?
Well, it was just, the thing is coming down to the brass point of it is finding out that fucking, what do they call him?
What's his name? Rav something?
Ravio.
That's right.
Finding out that Ravio was actually just Alt Universe Link was awesome.
Yeah. It just like shocked me, but at the same time, was it Was it obvious to some people? I feel like
I think it was, but the way they didn't try to make it way too obvious, right?
No, because I didn't even think about it, to be honest. I didn't think that it was a costume really at all. Because
the whole point is that it was the whole point was that it was a reverse role, so it was like, instead of Link, instead of Zelda being the helpless, defenseless one that needs rescuing, it was more like Hilda was, the strong one and really pulled through, whereas Ravio was the scared and weak one.
Yeah, like the opposite of what their Triforce represents.
Exactly. Yeah. And so like them coming back and then Ravio escaping to obviously the light world.
Hyrule, yeah.
Was like, well, shit, I'm a coward. I can't go back and face it anymore. It's like, so this guy is basically just me. Do I rely on him to push through and try and save our worlds, sort of thing? And so he sort of like tries to get by and make his living while also sort of trying to supply the hero being Link.
Yeah, just be like, all right, this guy can do it. Let's just give him all the items he needs.
Yeah.
Because I'm too much of a coward to go and do it myself.
Yeah. So, sort of all culminating to that and then getting to the end of it, pushing through and taking out Yuya Ganon or whatever you want to call him. And heading to the Sacred Realm to fix everything that had sort of like gone torn to shit. And seeing the Triforce in the Sacred Realm was like... And they did like a whole little cinematic for it and everything. Ravio come back and obviously tried to make amends for the fact that he's a coward by being there in the end. And it was just a good culmination, I think, overall, of despite you've got these two worlds where things are completely different in their own prospects. But no matter what, everybody has the courage to sort of step up and do the right thing, even if it's, meant in the end that it required a lot more courage. And I think that was kind of the point of it, really. It took Ravio ages to get there, but he finally did. And, it took Hilda admitting her mistakes that she made along the way. But it happened.
Yeah, I'd love to see that game come out on Switch.
Yeah.
Get a bit of a Metopia treatment. Along with Kid Icarus Uprising, I reckon that'll be the two 3DS games I'd love to see.
It needs to happen.
Yeah. Bloody Metopia. Why can't they do it for Kid Icarus? They do it for Metopia. Good damn it.
Yeah. But yeah, though, that was the last Zelda game his name was on, I believe.
Yeah, well, after that is Breath of the Wild. So,
yeah.
Just to wrap up this conversation, I don't want to go into this too much, but friend of the show, Paul James, he says that Breath of the Wild is shitty Witcher. How do you respond to that?
He's wrong. His main argument that he had on his post is that weapon degrading is shit. And I would like to aforemention Mr. Paul James that the only thing that you find shit about weapon degradation is the fact your weapons break. Weapon degradation happens in most games these days, including The Witcher.
I'd love to. I was thinking it'd be cool to get you on, have a
battle over it.
Debate, but I think it's a bit rough bringing on someone to a Nintendo podcast on the opposite side. You'll have all the audience being like, fuck you or whatever.
Yeah.
But we're all good around here. I hope none of our audience says that, and it's a bit more open minded to maybe what both people say.
Look, I'm not.
Be interesting.
I'm not saying Breath of the Wild is a flawless game. It has flaws.
Absolutely, yeah.
Climbing in the rain is bullshit. And why they put restrictions on you in a game that's supposed to be so free makes no sense. The weapon degradation issue, however, is a massively overhyped argument against Breath of the Wild. There's weapons everywhere. Pick them up and use them. Yeah. And if you're really worried about your weapons and not having good ones all the time, Robbie exists and you can craft them, or you can mark places off your map, kill a Hinox and grab one. It's not that big of a deal.
It's always been one of those things where I think about it, I'm like, oh, sounds like a pain in the ass, but when I played the game, I never had an issue with it. I've always got something. I'm always doing a shrine and a guardian's dropping some materials or just a weapon itself.
Yeah,
so it's like right. I've always got something.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell, Killer Lionel. They drop the strongest weapons in the game and make every other weapon redundant anyway. So just go Killer Lionel. You'll be right. Like it is frustrating when a weapon breaks mid combat or something like that, but it is really not the end of the world.
Yeah.
There's a few systems that need to be fixed, but Breath of the Wild was a very experimental game, like from the get go, and I believe they'll do their best to fix up a lot of it with Breath of the Wild 2.
Well, Breath of the Wild, like just how much of a change they made and how many sort of experiments they had just with like, oh, what if we do shrines and what if we have like the dungeons but they're like moving beasts and stuff like that. Like I can only imagine what the sequel is going to be like. Like I don't want to overhype any game because it's never going to meet your expectations, but I think it's going to be something special when it finally comes out. They're obviously taking all the time they need. So.
I think it's going to remain largely similar. I just think they're going to remove the claws of some really glaring issues with the game, and then add in some extra options for stuff like traversal and whatnot. Like if they really do go with the Guardian Arm idea that was floating around in Hyrule Historia, and you'll have like a grappling hook or like a long shot sort of attached link that you can use for climbing and stuff like that, just to make the process a little less tedious. Like I think shit like that will just change the game for the better and just be good overall.
I think like what I was talking about with like Bowser's Fury, where there's like so many like toys and that to interact with in the world.
Yeah.
If they can sort of give you the ability to interact with different things in different ways, a lot more than the original Breath of the Wild, I think it would be just something absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was... Shit.
It was shit. Oh, okay. So, okay.
I lost my place there for a second because I was looking at that beautiful box and I was like,
oh, yeah.
Look, that game could come out and it could just be carbon copy paste with a new story on top of it, and I'd probably be just as happy because I love Breath of the Wild and I really have no glaring problems with the game that would ever impede my enjoyment of it. But considering that they've been working on it since they released the original game, I think they'll have a lot to say eventually when it does hit, and I think it's going to have a lot of marginal improvements that will just make the overall experience a little bit better. You know what? Because everybody complains about weapon degradation, I think you'll find they won't drop it completely, but they'll definitely nerf how bad it is. For anybody who considers it bad, I guess. Maybe, make weapons last 2 times longer.
Yeah, I think like you know how the Master Sword, it just ran out of energy and didn't actually break. I reckon a couple more items like that would be pretty cool. Yeah. Like have like actual like some cool swords you can get from like each village or something that actually like added up and you could choose between them. But then it sort of gives you no reason to sort of scour for other weapons, so that might be kind of breaking the game as well. But anyway, something like that.
Yeah. I think the other thing as well is, they'll probably end up adding in repairers and stuff like that, so that rather than your things breaking, they'll just make them so they can be repaired.
Just unusable. Yeah.
And then from there, basically what they'll do is they'll just do what they did in the late game to Breath of the Wild, and that was add item effects to things and sort of add rare ones to them or whatever. And your goal is going to be more about finding the rare effects than it is going to be about, collecting the item itself. So like getting a shield duration buff on the Hylian shield was obviously like, well, this shield's never going to break for 80 hours of gameplay. Like shit like that is probably what you're going to be.
Did you ever break one?
For. No, I don't think I've ever broken one.
No, I haven't broken one either.
No. But that's because I wasn't irresponsible with them either. I didn't shield surf a hell of a lot with it or anything like that. I always kept it in the back end for like, well, here's a Guardian and I need to take a few hits.
Oh, that was so fun once you learned how to do that. Deflect their beam.
Yeah.
Oh, it was amazing.
Until you go to master mode and it's random between like 10 different possible options.
Yeah.
You're like, fuck off.
Just Russian roulette. All right, Bryce, we better end it there. Nice long episode since we missed a couple of weeks there.
Yeah, that we have.
Oh, sorry about that, everyone. But hopefully you enjoyed this one. Yeah. So, everybody, thank you very much for joining us in the House of Mario for episode 176. If you enjoy the show, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, and you can also go to your social media, share us on there with your friends. It definitely helps out the show a lot because we are a small podcast and small little boys, aren't we, Bryce? Are you a small boy?
I am a small boy.
Bryce is such a small boy. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at iDruby. Bryce is at IvyRevan, and the show is at the House of Mario. And you can join our Discord. There is an invite in the show notes. Go and check it out. Join our Discord, and we're actually starting to do community episodes on the House of Mario Encore with our community in Discord. The other week we did one with all about Pokemon with Meta, Sam, and Delfino. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun, and that will be up on the Encore feed in a few weeks. And if you're into Pokemon, we're doing a season all about Pokemon's 25th year anniversary, going through all the regions and all that. A lot of fun. Go and check out that. Support that podcast. That's about it, Bryce. Yeah. I'd like to thank our Patreon producers, Alex Harding, Sam Hay, DJ, and Luke. Thank you very much for helping us keep the lights on here at the House of Mario, because we need lights. Otherwise, we can't see Bryce's beautiful face.
That's right. That's exactly right. You need to see my face.
Yeah. So this week's Nintendo Jukebox is a song called Princess Zelda from the Hero of Time album by Eric Butchholes? Oh no. Butchholes. Butchholes. How would you pronounce that surname? I just almost said buttholes.
Bookholes.
Bookholes?
Bookholes. Book.
Not buttholes.
Jesus, man. I think we're both tired.
Yeah, we're tired.
I think that's what it is. Like even going through like my my Link Between Worlds conversation there, I'm starting to realize I'm tired now.
Yeah, it's like 10:30 at night. Anyway, guys, the doors to the House of Mario are closed. Catch you later.
Bye.